sabrinasalvati.
Woohoo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially made it to 100K subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your support. We will do a little Sabby Sabs podcast through the years. I guess you call it a tribute or whatever. I don't know. At the end of the show, so you can see what this show started as and what it has become. But thank you guys so much. Again, we are now at 100,000 subscribers. Really, really appreciate all of your support, guys. I couldn't have done it without you. All right. Damn. Welcome to Sabby Sabs Podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs Podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and the JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, fam. I'm super excited. I'm super pumped. Apparently, over the weekend, of course, when I was not live, we reached 100,000 subscribers. So, yeah, I promised you guys we would do something for that. We will do call-in tonight after the show as well. So I do have something prepared towards the end of the show for that. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. I can't believe it, you guys. I really can't believe it. This show has come a long way. A long way. All right, so let's start out by giving shout outs to people in the chat. What's going on? CBC Voter says, happy Tuesday, Sabby Sabs. What's up? What's going on, David? Sabby, you should interview Sarah Nelson on your show. She is a flight attendant union member and she will tell you everything about it. I have tried to find contact info for Sarah Nelson. So far, I haven't found any, but I'll keep looking for that. Shout out to Miguel says, peace. Greetings, Nick says, congrats on 100,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Tim says, congrats on 100K, Sabster. Now it's time to tear down the duopoly for real, for real. Will someone tell Beyonce's old goofy ass to stop square dancing and use her billions to stop a genocide? We're over it. I hear you there. Yes, we are over it. What's going on, New York Varsity? I tweeted a demonstration in Hawthorne, California of honk for peace. Lots of cars honking, but X made sure you didn't see it. Yeah, I definitely didn't see it. And most of the time on X, like a lot of the people that are on my timeline are people I don't even follow. You know, it's kind of annoying, actually. Greetings, Robbie says, adding my like early. Go ahead and hit that like button, guys. And shout out to Soul says, hi, fams. Greetings, Qualb says, everyone on the thumbnail is a man. You know what? Well, damn. I didn't realize that at first, but you're right. Yikes. Shout out to Larez says, hello, Sabrina, Eric, Corey, and RB and fam. Congrats on 100K. To many more 100Ks, found you around 7K. You interviewed Caleb Maupin, and I thought you were so based when you're opening. When are you opening your 100K plaque? So, yeah. So apparently that's not something that YouTube just sends you. I have to fill out a form for them to send it to me, which I haven't gotten around to yet. But yeah, I have to complete a form for them to send it to me. Shout out to Hannah says, congrats on 100,000 subs. Thank you so much. Greetings, Adonia says, hey, Sabster fam, this live is going to be fire. Yeah, we got a lot to cover tonight. This weekend was busy. Busy. Greenhouse, Sab, interview me. I'm petitioning for Jill's ballot access in New York. Would love to speak with you and the audience. You would need to email me because don't DM me, just email me because my DMs are a mess. That's why I don't like going in there. My email address is in the description of all my videos. So just send me an email. I will tell you this week is already booked. So next week would be best. Shout out to Cloudness. Happy Tuesday. I'm really glad Cam didn't let CNN pull him into their nonsense. I wish people had that same energy for Harvey. Ooh, and they let him go, but they got smoke for Diddy. Get the fuck out of here with that BS B1 fam. Interesting. Yeah, I do have that Cam video. We're going to see that tonight. Shout out to Transmission says it's late here in Scotland, but not late enough to miss Sabby. Tell it straight and to the point. Well done on getting 100K subscribers. Thank you so much. What's up, Asunta? Congrats on 100K subscribers. You rock. Thank you. Shout out to Larez. Thanks for the super chat. Congrats again, Sab. You're the one who taught me showing your whole ass and doing the damn thing. Or is that more of an RBN thing? Zoom tonight will be popping. Yeah, Zoom tonight will be fun. I don't know if it's more of an RBN thing. I think it's just more of like a cultural thing. I mean, me and my friends have been saying that for years, like, you know, doing the damn thing and someone was showing their whole ass. We've been saying that for a long time. Shout out to Red says, hello, Sabby. Congrats on the 100K. What's up, Red? What is up? Greetings, Recknell Brown. Happy Taco Tuesday, Sabby Sabs. Jump off, please. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe when you let go of Weinstein after all of his foul BS for decades, but trying to crucify a black but let the white go. I guess it's good that I actually covered Weinstein and Epstein on this show multiple times. Sometimes it's good to do your research before you accuse me of not doing something. Shout out to Lawrence says, Shaka when the walls fell. Greetings, Bird says, let us all thank the mainstream media for creating this open lane of honest news open. Happy 100K. Thank you so much for that. Interesting. What's up, layers of snark? So about them arrest warrants. Yeah, I know. We can get into that. Greetings to Wayne says, congrats, Sabby. Thank you so much. Shout out to Natalie. Hey there. This is going to be great. I hope so. Greetings, Mark says, Sabby, what is up, fam? Shout out to Eric says, hey, here we go. 100K of action. Greetings, Joanna says, congratulations, Sabby. Thank you so much. Shout out to Barry says, congrats. Greetings, New Sheep said, everybody rock your body. I remember that song. Greetings, Sean says, cool music. Shout out to Maria says, hit that like button, fam. Time to doobie-doobie-doo the damn thing. Greetings, Rachel K says, congrats on 100K. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Shout out to B says, congratulations, Sabby, on 100K. Greetings, Kyle says, I love your content. Thank you so much, Kyle. It's a lot of comments in the chat tonight. Shout out to Old Crow, 100K. Congratulations, Sabby. Well deserved. Looking forward to what's to come. Love to see it. Thank you so much. And shout out to Randy. Happy 100K subscriber day, Sabby. Thank you. Thank you. David says, woo, 100K and beyond. Thank you guys so much. A lot of people reached out to me over the weekend. In fact, you guys knew I got 100K before I did because I was actually watching. I think Eric texted me and said, you just hit 100K subscribers. And I was actually watching Chucky. So it's like, I've been watching the Chucky series and I actually just finished that last night. So yeah, I wasn't paying attention. That's right. Eric said he was first. He was first, the first person to tell me. But thank you guys so much. Yes, Chucky the show. Yep, I started watching that a couple weeks ago and I just finished it last night. So yeah, that's what I was watching. Yeah, it's interesting. All right, guys, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. Ultimate, Sabinators. Don't forget about Sabsters in the house. There's also Sabbies, of course. And we cannot forget about members. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate all of your support in the house. Okay. And I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. I'm feeling this name. Shout out to Disenchanted B for becoming a Sabby patron. Welcome so much. And thank you. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So something else that happened yesterday, I was on Tavis Smiley's radio show. So if you didn't catch it when it was live, you can actually listen to it on his website. Or actually, if you follow KBLA Talk, you can Actually, I have the app. So either way, you could download the app, or you can just go to his website and you can listen to it there. I'll actually probably put that in my newsletter tomorrow and send it out to you guys. That way you'll already have it. All right, so let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much to cover tonight. I hope you are getting comfortable, and we are going to do call in tonight after the show. Lots to discuss, and I did not notice this until someone pointed it out in the chat. They said everyone on the thumbnail is a man. I am sorry. It just, these were the stories. Oh my God. These were the stories. Tonight, we are discussing ICC arrest warrants. You'll see there's Netanyahu. There's also the leader of Hamas there. This is probably, I think, the biggest story over the weekend. This one is really making a lot of people angry, but not everyone. And we're going to show you who actually agrees with this decision from the ICC. It might surprise you. It's not the United States, of course, but you might be surprised who actually agrees with this. We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, Jesus, so much going on in the Middle East. Iran's president dies. This was a crazy story. Wild and crazy. Because back and forth over the weekend, I was like, is he alive or is he not alive? They didn't seem to know at one point. We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss Biden's Morehouse upset. Yes, that Morehouse commencement that was over the weekend. We're going to discuss Biden's speech, the rejection to Joe Biden, some of the protests that happened at Morehouse, which I think could have been more extreme. In my opinion, I think they should have done more, but we'll get into that as well. We're also going to discuss, if you have not heard about this, Diddy apologizes after that viral video of him abusing Cassidy has been released. Diddy is now apologizing, but is it sincere? We'll get into all of that. And last but not least, if you have not heard, we are discussing the breaking news about Julian Assange appeal and what that really means. So somewhat good news, but, we're going to talk about what this means in the long term when it comes to the Assange situation. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we will do a little tribute towards the end to show you the journey of this show from the beginning, which is really funny because when I was looking at this last night, I was laughing my ass off from the beginning to what it is now. We've come a long way. We have come a long, long way. All right. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and go to these super chats and then we'll go to our first story. Thank you, Mary Rose. Congrats on 100K subs, Sabby. It was just a matter of your badass time. Oh, thank you, Mary Rose. I never thought it would happen. I'll be honest with you. I never thought. I was like, shh. Like when I started this show, my goal was to get to 10K. That was it. Thank you, Jay Tolbert. Look at you, Sabby. You did the damn thing and reached 100K subs. Congrats to you and much continued success in all you do. Thank you so much, Jay. That's really sweet. And thank you, Tim. Kate Blanchett wore a Palestine dress. Oh, to Cannes. Oh, Cannes Film Festival. I didn't know about that. I guess that's one of the celebrities that you probably should not block on social media. So she shouldn't be a part of that blockout party. I'll have to look that up. Interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the first story. We are coming into this incident that happened with Iran's president. This is wild, okay? It was just a couple of days ago. We were discussing Slovakia's president and the attempted assassination on his life. And he is currently, fighting for survival as we speak. And now Iran's president has died. Now, in this particular situation, it wasn't an attempted assassination, but apparently this involves a helicopter crash. Now, of course, as you know, people are already asking, was there any foul play? So let's go ahead and get into this story here with this clip here from CNN.
And breaking news.
Hello and welcome to our viewers here in the United States and all around the world. I'm Paula Newton and we are following breaking news out of Iran, where state media has now confirmed the death of President Ibrahim Raisi and the country's foreign minister after a deadly helicopter crash. Now, rescue crews are now at a staging area. Those are live pictures where they are trying to assess where exactly the wreckage is and to begin their recovery efforts. Iranian officials say the helicopter ran into trouble amid heavy fog on Sunday afternoon. Let
me pause there. So that was an image of the helicopter. So there's a couple of things that have been said about this crash. Number one has been the weather. So they said that it was heavy fog, bad weather conditions, poor weather conditions. And I feel like I've heard this story over and over again where people are in these small planes and they say, well, the weather was bad, but they chose to fly anyway in the mountains. And it's just, I don't know. I always have questions about these types of stories, to be honest with you. And then two, the other I would say issue that they are alleging is that there was some type of mechanical failure. And I see that Be Easy has already called that out too. They're claiming it was a mechanical failure. Yeah. You know, I find it to be rather suspicious.
Images of the crash site in Iran's East Azerbaijan province show the remote mountainous area where the aircraft went down. And you are looking at a photo of it right there. The president and other officials had been attending a ceremony for the opening of a new dam near the border with Azerbaijan. Rescuers faced difficult weather conditions overnight, including cold and heavy fog, as they scrambled to locate the crash site. Iranians were urged to pray for the president amid news of the crash, with the country's supreme leader vowing that there will be no disruption in Iran's work. CNN's Paula Hancock is following all of these developments and joins us now live from Abu Dhabi. We should say state media has officially declared that their president has died, and we have not heard again from the supreme leader. But just if you can bring us right up to date on what happened and any reaction that you have coming in.
Well, Paula, we now do know that 9 people on board that helicopter lost their lives in the eastern Azerbaijan province. We know that the president was on board, the foreign minister. We understand a governor of that province, also an imam of Friday prayers of that province, along with security, the pilots, the crew. So 9 people in all went down with that helicopter. Now, you have mentioned the dire weather conditions. It took rescue teams around 16 hours to be able to locate and get to that area itself. The rescue teams were unable to put a helicopter into the air, they said, because of the weather conditions. The fact that the fog was so thick, visibility was very limited. We also heard from the rescue teams that there were sub-zero temperatures, that it was extremely cold in these areas. You can see from the images a very mountainous area, inhospitable terrain, and sparsely populated. So
let's just pause here for just a second. Okay, so when I first heard about this story, at that point in time, they hadn't decided whether or not he was alive or dead. They were just still trying to figure out if they could locate him at that point in time, right? So let's just paint a hypothetical situation. Let's say when the plane took off, the weather was fine. And then during the flight, the weather became gradually worse. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but don't pilots already know if the skies are going to be clear or not? Isn't that why flights can be delayed or flights can be canceled? Don't pilots already know the weather conditions prior to when the plane takes off? Is this a new thing here? I don't know. Somebody let me know. Someone let me know. So that in itself to me was very odd. Very odd. I would also like to see if any other planes that took off or actually were in that area landed safely during that day. It's just suspicious to me. And considering what's happening right now in the Middle East, don't you just find it a little bit convenient, given Israel's assault on Gaza and the fact that Iran is supplying weapons to Hamas? Don't you just find it kind of, I don't know, convenient, considering the fact that Israel bombed the Iranian embassy, Iran responded back to Israel, and then Israel responded back to Iran? Don't you think it's a little too convenient that now the president of Iran dies in a helicopter crash? It just seems a little too convenient.
That's the latest information we have. We do know also from state media that the government has convened an urgent meeting. They say that, according to a photo that was provided by state media, that the chair that President Raisi would usually sit in had a black sash across it for mourning. We understand from state media as well that there will be details in the hours to come about the mourning procession, the process, the timing, the details. All those will come to us shortly through state media. But people in Iran will be waking up this Monday morning to this shocking news that both the president and also the top diplomat have lost their lives in this helicopter crash. Of course, questions will be asked internally now about what happened, about whether why this helicopter was in the air with such dire weather conditions. We know it was in a convoy. There were 3 helicopters in all carrying the delegation of President Raisi from this inauguration of the dam project just on the border with Azerbaijan. There were 3 helicopters. 2 of them landed safely, but the one carrying the president and the foreign minister, we know now, did not. Paula.
Again, don't you think it's a little convenient that there were 3 helicopters? 2 of the helicopters landed safely, but it just so happens that the helicopter that was carrying the president of Iran is the one that crashed? Didn't those 2 helicopters fly through the same weather conditions? Did Boeing make this helicopter? Come on, guys, we have to think here. We have to think here. It's just a little too convenient to me. And I want people to ask questions about this because this to me does not make any sense. Now, NPR did report that there were mechanical issues with the helicopter. It just happens to be mechanical issues with the helicopter that the president of Iran was on, not the other 2. And wait for it, folks. It may be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now before we find out I would say what I would say really happened with this situation. We may not find out till years from now. But this does not make any sense to me. We'll go on a little bit more here. I'm going to tell you what people are saying about the United States in reference to this incident.
Paula Hancock's for us in Abu Dhabi, continuing to track reaction. Really appreciate it. I want to bring in CNN's chief international anchor now, Christiane Amanpour. Christiane, really good to have your insights here. You interviewed the foreign minister a little bit over a year ago. You tried to interview the president. I just want to get your reaction to what really has been shocking news.
Well, Paula, it is obviously shocking news, and it couldn't come at a more unstable time for Iran and for the region. Iran faces, as you know, those internal protests and discontent that have been crushed brutally in the aftermath of Mahsa Amini's death, and that was under the direction of President Raisi and the Supreme Leader and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It also comes at a time when this Israel war on Gaza against Hamas continues. And as you know, the perennial shadow war between Israel and Iran that had been going on broke into the open over the last several weeks. That somewhat subsided after a reaction from both sides, but nonetheless, it shows the peril of the situation. You can imagine for the United States, for the West, one of the most important issues is the Iran nuclear issue. That had been somewhat contained after the 2015 nuclear agreement that President Obama negotiated with Iran and with Europe and was rubber-stamped, or rather stamped into officialdom by the entire United Nations process. President Trump, at the urging also of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pulled the United States out of that, and that caused much more uncertainty and stability over the process of the Iran nuclear program. We understand.
Let me pause here for just a second. So, and thank you for saying that. I think it was Rachel who mentioned that as well. When we talk about condolences, right? When things happen to other countries that are part of the West, the United States government or the president of the United States will at least offer condolences or something like that. There will be a big speech that says, we are so sorry about what happened. But because it's Iran, it's just glossed over. The U.S. government doesn't even care about it, right? Now, she's bringing up the Iran nuclear deal. that was changed under Donald Trump. But I feel like that is pulling us away from the issue at hand, right? We're talking about the helicopter crash that just happened to carry the president of Iran, and the fact that there is the conflict right now with Israel and with Gaza, and there has already been fire exchange between Israel and Iran. You know, what does this mean for the future of Iran? What happens next for Iran? And I'm curious to know if the administration in Iran actually believe the story that is being told about this helicopter crash, or if they feel differently. And if they do feel differently, how will they respond? This is one of those stories I'm telling you, we probably won't know everything until a couple years from now. We're going a little bit more here.
Over the last week or so, there was some word from the IAEA, the UN nuclear agency, that they were back in talks with Iran to make sure that everything was happening above board and within the nuclear regulations, the non-proliferation treaty. We wait to see what kind of work they were doing on that. And it's known that the United States is trying to stabilize issues with Iran, given the volatility of the region right now. As for inside Iran, as you mentioned, the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei issued many statements before the news that he had actually been found dead, saying that the nation was praying, and you're bound to see days, if not weeks, of official mourning organized all over the country. He also said that the affairs of the country will not be disrupted or disturbed. To that point, there is a act of succession. There is a line of succession. There's a first vice president, and you're bound to see at least interim measures being put in place to ensure the continuous running of the system. At one point, before.
Let me just stop here and then we'll go to the next video. Another question that I have: how do we know, or how do we not know, if one of the people that were traveling with the president just happened to be working for someone else? Isn't that how the U.S. government would do it? Isn't that how the U.S. government has done this before? Hasn't the U.S. government actually had people infiltrate certain organizations and certain, governments to do their bidding? U.S. government did that to the Black Panthers. They pretend like they wanted you, they go along with you, and then they're the one that actually caused your fall. We may never know, but people are already asking if the United States government had something to do with this. Shout out to Hotspot for doing the damn thing. They are doing it. Hotspot catches these stories all the time. I don't know how they keep up with all of this. I don't know how they do it. The United States is in no way involved in the crash of Iranian president helicopter. This is coming from Lloyd Austin. Of course, he was questioned about that.
Israel is also conducting operations in northern Gaza, even though they've said that they previously said that they had defeated Hamas there. So, particularly given your personal experience fighting terrorists in the Middle East, do you believe that Israel can achieve its goal of fully eliminating Hamas?
The United States had no part to play in that crash, and that's a fact, plain and simple.
But if the United States did have involvement to do with that crash, it's not like Lloyd Austin would actually say in a press conference, yeah, it was us. I mean, let's be real, folks. Would they admit that? No, they would not. He says this as though we should just take it as fact or whatever. It's like, come on, man. We know if the U.S. was involved, we know that you would be the one that would lie in front of the American people. It's not like you would actually accept that responsibility. We're not stupid.
And Israel? Are you afraid they're going to blame Israel?
I won't speculate as to what they'll blame. Again,
Israel is also conducting operations.
Yeah, so this is where we're at now, folks. It is a very scary time, very troubling time. Again, the United States government has been known to before infiltrate and to have other leaders of countries taken out. It has happened before. So hold on to your seatbelts, folks, because this is not good. This is really not good. And I'm sorry. Call me silly. Call me, I don't know, superstitious, a skeptic, whatever you want to call me. But I just find it very hard to believe the information that has been displayed about this particular incident. I find it very hard to believe. And like I said, it may not be till years from now until we find out what really happened in reference to that helicopter crash. Seems a little bit bizarre to me. Let's go to some of the comments here. Shout out to Joanne for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Joanne a big whoop whoop. Casey said, did Boeing make the helicopter? I'm wondering too, I don't know. I don't know. Yikes. Marlo, Sabby, did you hear how 3 U.S. commandos were arrested in connection to the attempted coup in the DRC? I saw a video about it on Twitter, but I couldn't really hear much in that video. I'm going to try to find another piece of information, another source where I can actually hear what's being said in the video. But I saw something like that on Twitter. Interesting. What's up, 72 Marsh Flower? Sabby Sabs, that's how they want it. Israel doesn't want anyone knowing the truth till sometime after any given attack, false or true. It's interesting. Thank you, David. Possible hijacking? Any parachutes near the crash? That's a good question, David. Good question. David's playing PI. Shout out to Teresa. Thank you so much. So they could only afford a rickety Bell helicopter for their president. Did Kobe Bryant not teach us anything about flying a helicopter in bad weather? On. I don't know what the on goes to. I don't know, man. Like I said, the other 2 helicopters that were not carrying the president are okay. Those people are okay. The president, not so much. Interesting. If you just joined and you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button, guys. We got a couple more stories to discuss, and we are going to do our 100K celebration tonight, and we will do call in as well. So looking forward to all of that jazz. Let's go to the next story. In a twisted, crazy, wild, shocking turn of events, the ICC, ladies and gentlemen, has decided to pursue arrest warrants against Netanyahu and the leader of Hamas. I kid you not, I didn't believe this at first when I heard about it. I was like, let me Google this information, because it was just a picture on Twitter. There was no source attached to the picture. So I said, let me Google this to see if this, and I was like, holy smokes, it is true. In fact, the chief prosecutor sat down with Christine Amanpour of CNN to explain why they are moving forward with these arrest warrants. And then I'm going to explain to you how Netanyahu and the State Department are responding to this. Let's get into it.
We're here at the ICC. You are today announcing that you are applying for arrest warrants for top military and political leadership in the Israel-Gaza war since the October 7th events. First and foremost, explain to me exactly what you're asking for and who you are charging.
Today, Christiane, we've applied for warrants to the pretrial chamber of the International Criminal Court in relation to 3 individuals that are Hamas members. Sinwar, who's in charge on the ground.
That's Yahya Sinwar?
Absolutely. Dave, who's in charge of the Al-Qassam Brigade. And Hania, who's one of their political bureau based in Doha.
What are the...
Pause. So did you notice something with this interview, right? Notice he did not lead with Netanyahu. Could just be a coincidence, but I found that to be interesting that he didn't lead with probably the most well-known of the people they want to issue arrest warrants to is Bibi Netanyahu. But you notice he didn't lead with that. He led with Hamas leader, right? Remember, it is still CNN. And I think back to the pressure that the ICC received in reference to pursuing an arrest warrant. They were threatened by senators from the U.S. government. They threatened them via letter. They actually put it in a letter and they signed it. So we saw all of their names trying to pressure them against doing their job and essentially acting like a mafia. But here we are.
Charges.
The charges are extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape and sexual assault in detention.
Did you hear that part? So he brings up the SA issue, right? Now, the New York Times article that actually, they were the first ones to discuss those claims. That article has been debunked multiple times. There has been no forensics evidence in reference to October 7 SA. There has been none, which they acknowledge. But everybody is continuing with that narrative, and that includes the chief prosecutor of the ICC. What about the SA allegations against the IDF from the Palestinian prisoners?
These are the key crimes that are alleged to have been committed by these three individuals. The world was shocked on the 7th of October when people were ripped from their bedrooms, from their homes, from the different kibbutzim in Israel. And people have suffered enormously. And we have a variety of evidence to support the applications that we've submitted to the judges.
You have also issued warrants against the top political and military leadership of the government of the State of Israel.
We've applied for.
So notice how in order to get him to mention Netanyahu, she had to pull it out of him. He didn't openly volunteer that information.
For warrants, of course, the judges must determine whether or not to issue them, but we've applied today, we'll apply for warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and also Minister of Defense Gallant for crimes of causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, deliberately targeting civilians in conflict.
So you guys heard all of that, right? Okay. Now, it was interesting to me because he is still trying to both sides this issue. Don't get it twisted. But if you actually check the UN's website, they actually have a list of categories about these charges. So it says the ICC is seeking arrest warrants for Hamas leaders and Israel's Netanyahu. So it gives a little bit more information here than that video. The first one that you see is the starvation tactic alleged. This includes starvation of civilians as a method of warfare is a war crime, right? Intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population and extermination and / or murder. So again, let's talk about the vocabulary that's being used. Notice they didn't say genocide. They're using the word extermination, but they're not using the word genocide. I really believe that's on purpose, right? But essentially what they're saying here is they're trying to commit genocide, basically. Pay attention to that. It goes on to say here, here's another category, unfathomable pain. It is the view of my office that these individuals planned and instigated the commission of war crimes on October 7th and have their own actions, including personal visits to hostages shortly after their kidnapping, acknowledge their responsibility for those crimes. Speaking with survivors, I heard how the love within a family, the deepest bonds between a parent and a child, were contorted to inflict unfathomable pain through calculated cruelty and extreme callousness. These acts demand accountability. Okay. Now they go on to say here, it says they interviewed victims and survivors and that this information, along with other sources, indicated they had been kept in inhumane conditions and some were subjugated to XSA. So the other sources that I think they're referring to is that New York Times article, which has already been debunked, but they're still including that as a part of the charges here. So notice they don't list the sources. They say other sources, not to mention some of those survivors actually came back around and said that they were not telling the truth, that the story was all made up. So they're leaving that part out. Continuing on, survivors' courage. It goes on to say here, on the issue of the liability of the top Israeli official Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant, it says alleged starvation as a method of war. This and other crimes against humanity were allegedly committed as part of a widespread and systemic attack against Palestinian civilian population pursuant to state policy. To reinforce the allegations, Mr. Khan cited interviews with survivors and eyewitnesses, authenticated video, photo, and audio material, satellite imagery, and statements which showed that Israel has intentionally and systemically deprived the civilian population in all parts of Gaza of objects indispensable to human survival. Now, again, considering what I just read to you there is no reason that the United States government should have still been supplying weapons to Israel, because it is a war crime to starve an entire population of people during war. That is not allowed, but Israel has been doing it. And I want to give a shout out to all the people that supplied the video footage. All of those journalists that were there in Gaza that captured the video of the people going through this ordeal. Had it not been for them, we would never know about this. This would have been hidden. We probably would have found out about this 10, 20 years ago, 10, 20 years later. It would have been hidden. This is why the IDF was targeting the journalists. This is why the IDF went into Al Jazeera's office and removed Al Jazeera. They also tried to remove video footage today from the Associated Press in Israel. They trying to silence all of the information because they did not want this to get out, what they were doing to those people. Had it not been for the video footage, had it not been for those journalists, a lot of the people in the world would still be siding with Israel. I do not doubt that. I do not doubt that if it wasn't for the video footage, people will feel differently. A lot of people would who didn't know about the history of this. So that's why they tried to silence the journalists. Aid siege. It goes on to say here, detailing the impact of total siege imposed by Israel on Gaza after October 8th, the ICC request to judges explained that this involved completely closing 3 border crossing points, Rafah, Kerem Shalom in the south, and Erez in the north, for extended periods, and then by arbitrarily restricting the transfer of essential supplies, including food and medicine, through the border crossing after they were reopened. Again, these were images that were caught on video. So again, shout out to the people that were there, the journalists that were able to capture those incidents happening, because otherwise Israel would just be able to continue to lie, and we would have no proof that they were doing these things. So shout out to the journalists. It goes on to say here, among other deprivations, the Israeli siege also cut off water and electricity pipelines to Gaza. So again, taking water away from the people. All of these things are considered war crimes. You cannot do this to civilian populations. This part here, gravest offenses. Although Israel has the right to defend itself under international law, Mr. Khan insisted that intentionally causing death, starvation, great suffering to civilians were clear breaches of the ICC's foundational charter. So Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, while Palestine is. But again, according to some Zionists, they will tell you that Palestine was never real, that it never existed. Yet you find Palestine all throughout the UN's website. And this category here, no one is above the law. It says here, let me go here. I wanted to go to the right part. Unlike the ICJ, which is the UN's principal judicial organ for settling disputes between countries, the ICC tries individuals. The ICC is a permanent court based in The Hague. So that's important for people to understand. It goes on to say here, Once a trial has ended, the judges may impose a sentence of imprisonment for a specified number of years, not exceeding a maximum of 30 years of life or life imprisonment. Now, this speaks to something that I actually questioned a while back when South Africa actually brought that case to the ICJ. And the ICJ said that Israel must do everything in their power to prevent genocide of the Palestinian people. At that point in time, it was one of you that actually sent me an email showing me that because of the decisions that Israel has made, that technically there should have been a call to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. And you sent me the link from Cornell Law School where it actually explained that the maximum could be 30 years or life imprisonment. And that's a question I've been asking myself all along. Why hasn't anyone arrested Bibi at this point in time? So they are moving forward with this as much as they can. Now, I want to show you something because Sky News has been lying. They're already lying. They seem to think that we have short memories, particularly when it comes to this conflict. Shout out to Hotspot for this clip. So Sky News is discussing the arrest warrants. And listen to what they say. Listen to this. They are lying.
And wind back to the morning of October the 7th when, the world was waking up and we were starting to see some of those images from southern Israel about what had been, what Hamas had done. But you will remember, Jane, warnings from the Americans. You'll remember warnings from the British government as well, to the Israelis, be very, very careful about how you proceed. And
that is a lie. That is a blatant lie from Sky News. Somebody write this down. Maybe you can contact Sky News and tell them to stop lying. After the attack on October 7th, the U.S. government and the UK did no such thing. They did not tell Israel, be careful how you proceed. In fact, the response was, we are going to give Israel everything that they need to defeat Hamas. So why is Sky News making up this story? Now, all of a sudden that there are arrest warrants that are being pursued against Bibi Netanyahu. Now, all of a sudden, Sky News is trying to make it seem like the U.S. government and the UK actually warned Bibi ahead of time and said, be careful about this. That is absolute BS. And you guys know this. They seem to think we forgot all of a sudden. They seem to think this started 4 years ago. This was just last fall. We haven't forgotten what was said. These people are lying. And why are they doing that? They're doing that because they don't want their leaders to be blamed for their part in the assault on Gaza. Now that there is an attack towards Netanyahu. Somebody call Sky News and let them know, stop lying. Stop lying. So, of course, Bibi is not happy about these charges that are possibly coming his way. And he actually spoke on Good Morning America. You got to listen to this, right? So he makes a statement here that I think he thought was going to be a strong statement, is going to be a gotcha moment. But the statement that Netanyahu makes during this interview actually works against him. Listen to this.
He's creating a false symmetry between the democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist chieftains. That's like saying after 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden, or after.
That is a bad example. Do you see this? You see how people like Netanyahu are still stuck in 2003? They still think that a lot of Americans support these wars. They still think that a lot of people are still neocons. You see how he's still stuck in 2003? Still stuck there. This does not work the way he thinks it does.
After 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden, or.
Right. So the problem is, to Netanyahu, a lot of Americans feel like that should have been done. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of Americans are not okay with what George W. Bush did, how he lied to get us into the Iraq war. A lot of Americans today are saying that George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton are war criminals, BB. Get with the times. So this does not work in his favor. This actually works against him. Do you think most of us are sitting back saying, oh, yeah, that's not fair? Yeah, we wouldn't want them to do that to George W. Bush. No. Most of us, especially now, especially after we found out that they lied about the war in Iraq, most of us said he should have been locked up. This does not work in your favor.
After in World War II, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for FDR, but also for Hitler. It's a hit job. It's not serious. He's out to defame Israel, and he's also pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism that are spreading around the world, because he is attacking the one and only Jewish state and trying to handcuff us, preventing us from exercising responsibly through the laws of war as we obey them and we are subordinate to them. He's saying we're not. He's creating false symmetry, false facts, and he's doing a grave injustice to the international court. He's creating a...
So this is everything that BB is saying. Like, these are the things that describe what his government is doing, creating false facts, lying, right? You know, he had to throw in anti-Semitism. Criticizing a state's government is not anti-Semitism. Criticizing a government is not anti-Semitism. He has nothing else to say. He uses this every time. This is what they just throw in. Zionists just throw this in there because they have nothing else to say, because they are guilty of these crimes. And they use that as their little ticket to punch out. The State Department also is not happy with the chief prosecutor from the ICC. In fact, Matt Miller is being, I would say, dragged through the coals about this announcement from the ICC. So, of course, the U.S. government does not support this arrest warrant going towards Netanyahu. They're totally fine with it to go towards Hamas, but not towards Netanyahu, even though Netanyahu has committed war crimes. Craig Markheimer points out in this video clip you're about to see that Matt Miller is lying. He says Miller is openly lying here. Palestine has been a member of the ICC since 2015, and ICC jurisdiction over acts committed on Palestinian territory has long been confirmed. Yet another case of the U.S. trying to undercut international law on behalf of its oppressive foreign ally. So listen to this statement here from Matt Miller while he is grilled by journalists about the arrest warrants from the ICC.
I was kind of momentarily stunned by your original answers. I forgot my question, but these will be brief. So are you okay then with the application for arrest warrants against Hamas?
We do not believe that they have jurisdiction over either of the parties of this
So
conflict,
you don't think that Hamas, you don't think that Hamas leaders should be prosecuted?
We absolutely believe that Hamas should be held accountable. That could be,
held
hold on,
accountable.
let me finish. That could be either through the prosecution of the war effort by Israel. It could be,
in other words, being killed.
It could be by being killed. It could by being brought to justice in an Israeli court. We do not believe the ICC has jurisdiction over either of the parties in this case, because...
Let me start it over because I think the volume was low at first. So here we go.
I was kind of momentarily stunned by your original answers. I forgot my question, but these will be brief. So are you okay then with the application for arrest warrants against Hamas?
We do not believe that they have jurisdiction over either of the parties of this
So
conflict,
you don't think
and that includes Hamas.
You don't think that Hamas leaders should be prosecuted?
We absolutely believe that Hamas should be held accountable. That could be, hold on, let me finish. That could be either through the prosecution of the war effort by Israel. It could be,
in other words, being killed.
It could be by being killed. It could by being brought to justice in an Israeli court. We do not believe the ICC has jurisdiction over either of the parties in this case because the Palestinian people do not represent a state.
Okay.
And that includes the leaders of Hamas.
But obviously.
So going back to what Craig Markheimer said, he said that the Palestinians have actually been a part of the ICC since 2015. So that is Matt Miller lying. You see, Matt Miller, the State Department, they think that people aren't going to look up this information. So that was a lie.
Obviously, the administration is also troubled by actions that Israel has taken post October 7th. So where's the accountability for that? Where do the Palestinians go? This is a question I asked Ned a long time ago, over and over and over again. Where do the Palestinians go to seek redress?
So let me answer this a couple of different ways. First of all, in the short term, with respect to questions of war crimes, Israel does have open investigations, a number of open investigations. We made this public when we released our report on National Security Memo 20, including some investigations that have become criminal investigations into conduct by members of the IDF. That is the first instance for judging whether someone has committed a war crime or a violation of IDF code of conduct.
So in other words, Israel investigates itself. How is that any different from a police department having an internal investigation of a police officer misbehaving? They think we're stupid, you guys.
That's one of the reasons why we have concerns about the ICC. The ICC is set up to be a court of last resort. If a country isn't properly holding itself and its personnel accountable, that's when the ICC comes in, not in the middle of the process as they have done here. That said, ultimately.
So again, he just told on himself here, right? So he said the ICC gets involved, right? After a country has already taken the steps to investigate themselves. So Israel apparently has said, we're looking into this matter, we're looking into that matter since October 7th. When they fail to do so, that is when the ICC comes in, which the ICC is doing right now. So Matt Miller is telling on himself. The fact that the ICC is pursuing these arrest warrants, that tells you that Israel has not held itself accountable, which why would it? That's like a police department holding its own officers accountable. Why would it? So he's really messing up here, and I don't think he's realizing what he's revealing to people.
Ultimately, and you know this, Matt, and because we've spoken about it a lot, we believe that there should be the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And an independent Palestinian state would have the ability to join the Rome Statute and become a member of the International Criminal Court, as every state in the world has the right to do. But that is not.
So where do they go in the meantime?
They are not SOL. I said, first of all, Israel has its own investigations. Second, we have accountability mechanisms here. We have processes that are ongoing to look at Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law. So
he's struggling here, guys. He's struggling here. He's admitting to you, though, that Israel investigates itself. They are not going to tell on themselves.
Our places to look at these questions, it's just in our view, fundamentally not a role of the ICC. And I should say, but remember, we have a jurisdictional complaint here, and that we don't believe the ICC has jurisdiction. But if you looked at the statement the secretary made that I echoed in my opening remarks, that isn't our only problem with the action the prosecutor has taken. We also have a problem that he has short-circuited an investigation and brought this action without waiting to see where these Israeli investigations end up, without completing the trip that he had planned to come to Israel to look into these questions. So it's not just a question of jurisdiction, it's also a question of the way the investigation is being conducted.
So is that chief prosecutor, is he supposed to wait till all of the people that are left in Gaza starve to death before he actually moves forward with some type of arrest warrant? Is that what he's supposed to do? Is he supposed to wait until all the Palestinian people that are left in Gaza are dead before he actually says, okay, now it's time to pursue an arrest warrant against Netanyahu? Do you see the problem here is Matt Miller is a tool of the State Department to continue to provide cover for the state of Israel. That is Matt Miller's job. That is what he is doing. I don't even think Matt Miller believes what he's saying himself. This guy has already been prepped with responses. He already has been told how to respond to these questions and what to say, but he is a puppet. The people that are in front, the people that are giving the responses, the people that are in the press conferences, these are not the people that are really making the decisions. These are just the people that are delivering the news. The people who are making the decisions are the people that we never get to see. So people will say, well, what about the president of the United States and not calling for a ceasefire? Right. Who is telling him to make that decision? Who's behind the president, ladies and gentlemen? Who are the donors? The people that you never get to see. That's what we have to look for.
So let's just focus on jurisdiction for a second. Who does have jurisdiction here?
So the government of Israel has jurisdiction
Over the occupied territory.
We have jurisdiction
over Gaza, which is not entirely
They
occupied.
have jurisdiction into looking at the actions
Okay,
by their
so
military
the
personnel.
Palestinians, if they have a complaint, they have to bring it to Israeli courts.
We have jurisdiction, and we
You have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our equipment.
I'm sorry.
With the,
how do you have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our military equipment
Matt,
that we have provided?
How do you have jurisdiction?
If you look at the Leahy law, if you look
No,
at
that's not jurisdiction in a criminal process. That's
not in the
jurisdiction
criminal
over-
process, but it has to do with the determinations that we make and the policies that flow
but
from
that's
it.
not
So, but Matt, long term, you were right that we want to see.
used to work for DOJ, Matt.
You were
Come
right.
on. There's no U.S. does not have jurisdiction.
There are
here.
different. I wasn't referring to criminal jurisdiction, Matt. There are different ways to look at this. Long term, we agree with you that the Palestinian people should be a state that has and have the ability to make these determinations. But that's not where we are today. That's where we're trying to get to.
Just because there isn't a Palestinian state, that doesn't give Israel the right to starve the people in Gaza. Right. So Matt is getting pretty tense. He's kind of upset here because people keep doing what they're doing. But I want to show you something else, too, in reference to the State Department, how they continue to expose themselves and how they can be very hypocritical. Shout out to Asel Rod for this. Remember when you used the ICC's war crime charges against Putin to call him an international pariah, right? So listen to this. Just a reminder from Mr. Matt Miller.
I think Putin's actions have cemented him as an international pariah. Remember, he's been charged by the ICC with war crimes, was not able to travel to the most recent meeting of the BRICS because of that decision to charge him, did not show up at the G20 meeting, no doubt because he didn't want to hear from a number of the countries there about the results and the consequences of his actions. So yes, I would absolutely make that assessment.
So you heard that, right? So when it's in reference to Vladimir Putin, it is okay. It's okay to call out or agree with the ICC statement, but not when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, right? Now, that is in response to this statement that he made here, where he said that there was no equivalence between Hamas and Israel. Listen to this.
As the secretary said in a statement a short time ago, the United States fundamentally rejects the announcement today from the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court that he is applying for arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials together with warrants for Hamas terrorists. There should be no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
So do you see this? Right? So let's say we agree with Matt Miller that there should be no equivalence. Well, I would describe them like this. Yes, one is an occupier and an oppressor, Israel, and the other are basically resistance fighters. One is an occupier, the other one is occupied. Where am I wrong? So you see, the real problem that Matt Miller has, I told you he would expose himself, is the fact that the prosecutor is issuing trying to issue arrest warrants for Israel and Hamas. And Matt Miller has a problem with that, whether there's jurisdiction or not. That's just an excuse. Matt Miller has a problem with that because it basically says to the world that they are the same when it comes to war crimes. And he does not want that to be revealed to the world. That's the problem that Matt Miller has.
None. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization that carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust and is still holding dozens of innocent people hostage, including Americans. Furthermore, the United States has been clear since well before the current conflict that the ICC has no jurisdiction over this matter. The ICC was established by its state parties as a court of limited jurisdiction. These limits are rooted in principles of complementarity, which do not appear to have been applied here, amid the prosecutor's rush to seek these arrest warrants rather than allowing the Israeli legal system a full and timely opportunity to proceed.
In other words, rather than allowing the Israeli legal system to delay as long as they want to. And in the meantime, the IDF will continue to steal the aid and the food that's going into Gaza, and the Palestinian people will starve. They have been investigating, having these internal investigations since October. It's now May. This is the dumbest statement that I've ever heard. Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
In other situations, the prosecutor deferred to national investigations and worked with states to allow them time to investigate. The prosecutor did not afford the same opportunity to Israel in this case, which has ongoing investigations into allegations against its personnel. There are also deeply troubling process questions. Despite not being a member of the court, Israel was prepared to cooperate with the prosecutor and had made that clear. In fact, the prosecutor himself was scheduled to visit Israel as early as next week to discuss the investigation and hear from the Israeli government. The prosecutor's staff was supposed to land in Israel today to coordinate the visit, and instead, Israel was informed that the prosecutor's staff didn't get on their flight around the same time that the prosecutor himself went on television to announce these charges.
Again, that is Israel's side of the story. So you see how, once again, whatever the Israeli government says, our State Department will just take them at their word and won't question it. But when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to people in the West Bank, when it comes to anyone that they do not consider to be an ally of the West, they're not willing to take their word. But Israel can say whatever they want to, and they just say we should believe it because Israel has said it. Now, check this out. Because you see, this is going to shock you. Not everyone agrees with the U.S. position in reference to the ICC trying to issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. In fact, one of the U.S.-owned Western allies has spoken out against the U.S. position. Believe it or not, France actually supports the ICC decision. What is Macron doing? Macron is just doing his own thing. Remember, I told you about him last year where he said, why should Europe still follow the United States? Maybe Europe should try to become its own, power. Maybe we should be a third power and not just follow the lead of the US. He made that statement last year, and here we are. France backs the ICC after it seeks arrest warrants for Israel's Netanyahu Hamas leaders. Let's get into this, fam. I did not expect to see this on my bingo card today. Did not expect it at all. Nope. France backs the ICC and the fight against impunity, its foreign ministry said, after the ICC prosecutor requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leaders for alleged war crimes. On Monday, ICC prosecutor Karim Khan said he had requested arrest warrants for Netanyahu, his defense chief Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders, including its chief Yahya Sinwar. Okay, now let's go on to France. France supports the ICC, its independence, and the fight against impunity in all situations. While U.S. President Joe Biden called the legal step against Israeli officials outrageous, the French foreign ministry took a different stance. So is Netanyahu now going to call Macron anti-Semitic as well? Are we seeing a little bit of a ripple among the West? Is this France's way of saying, you know what? We're getting pretty tired of being in the background of your stuff, man. We're getting pretty tired of just going along with the U.S. just because. Or could it be that maybe Macron, and being the way that he is, will just try to flip-flop at some point and change his mind? He's done that before. Or maybe France has just had enough. It goes on to say here, as far as Israel is concerned, it will be up to the court's pretrial chamber to decide whether to issue these warrants after examining the evidence put forward by the prosecutor. The ministry said that. It goes on to say Foreign Minister Stephanie told the National Assembly on Tuesday that the simultaneous warrant request must not establish an equivalency between Hamas and Israel. So again, They don't want any type of equivalency established there. They just, I guess, just want you to move forward with the arrest of the individuals and the individual crimes. Remember, the ICC arrests individuals. She goes on, or they go on to say, on one side, you have a terrorist group that congratulated itself on October 7 attacks. And on the other side, you have democracy, Israel, that must respect international law while conducting a war it did not start. Let's highlight democracy and let's talk about what's really happening here with this word. Why do you think Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, everyone that's telling you that we must reelect Joe Biden, why do you think they continue to say we must protect our democracy? That's not just in reference to domestic policy. That's also them speaking about foreign policy. They also think when they say protect our democracy, they're not just talking about the United States, they're talking about Israel too. Remember, they consider Israel to be like an extension of the United States. They literally announced today, hold on, folks, literally announced today, there is legislation being put forth in Congress to give IDF soldiers the same benefits as U.S. troops. I kid you not. Now they're willing to move mountains for Israel. They're willing to do anything for Israel. Now they want to give them the same benefits that they give U.S. soldiers, which is excellent healthcare, by the way, etc. But they don't want to give everybody in this country health care. They don't want to give you a federal increase of the minimum wage, but they want to give the IDF soldiers the same benefits as U.S. troops in this country. I cannot make this up. So kudos to France for being one of the few to step forward and say, nah, actually, we're totally fine with this. It makes me wonder if other Western allies will also come forward and back France. Interesting time, folks. Interesting times. We'll have to wait and see what happens and what the court says in reference to possibly arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. But at the end of the day, it is not looking good for Bibi. Not looking good. Even if they don't arrest him, your reputation is done, son. All right, Eric, let's get that Rumble rant. Thank you so much for the Rumble rant. Goo. Hamas on X said they welcome being heard at the ICC. Well. Oh my God, guys, it's getting it's getting wild. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Carl. Iran said they were getting phone calls from the copter. The escort helicopters usually fly just behind and next to the one they are guarding. Why didn't they know where the copter crash was? That's a good question. Charging Hamas is the real reason for the arrest warrants. They charge the main negotiator. So there can be no negotiations. And thank you so much for that. Well. Yeah, I was right. Eric, we can go to part 2 to type V and see. Robert says Sabby was right. 2024 is wild. This year is wild, fam. It is wild. Someone said, thank you, Palestinian Levant. Norway on Tuesday became the first European country to announce that it would arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. I missed that one. Thank you for letting me know. Well. Interesting. Times are changing, huh? Oh, how the times are starting to change. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Tim. Angela Davis was on a podcast fighting for Gaza. So that doesn't surprise me because Angela Davis, even in the past, before she became more liberalized, more of a neoliberal, even in the past, Angela Davis did defend the Palestinian people. She did stand in solidarity with them, along with Kwame Ture, along with Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X. Shout out to Pitchforks Are Coming, says Revolution, November timeline. Thank you for being a member for 17 months. Thank you, Chris C. No one dares arrest Bibi because U.S. government would rush immediately to his defense. It's not even just him. It's solely Israel. Zionism is a cancer. I hear you. Thank you, Buster. Hey, was just wondering about CJ. I'm late to the party there. Also, congrats on 100K. Next, 1 million. Oh, that would be forever and a day. forever and a day. In reference to that, again, I said the best thing for you to do is to watch the stream that was on RBM where we discussed all that in reference to that. Thank you so much. Thank you, New York Varsity. Netanyahu defers to history because it is his only shot at a debate or prolonged argument. Without it, he is committing war crimes, period. Thank you, 72 Marsh. Sabby, per the previous comment, history isn't on the side of Israel. Quite the opposite. Sykes/Picot, Balfour, Nakba, all prove Israel is lying. Yeah. And this is why they're trying to like rewrite history in so many ways, like changing the definition of anti-Semitism, saying that Palestine never existed, right? Trying to rewrite history. Thank you, David. Accountability has a price tag in this country. You need money. Thank you, baby Ethernet. Yet those investigations are still open. Israel doesn't have the moral standing to hold itself accountable. Thanks for clarifying, Matt. Matt told him himself. Thank you, Tim. Alana Hadid started a Watermelon Films production. Ooh, that's awesome. Thanks for that. And thank you, Marvin. You won't see Professor Morandi on CNN. Thank you. No, you won't. I think Professor Morandi was just on Piers Morgan again, though. He was putting Piers Morgan in his place again. Okay. All right, guys. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Quick reminder, we will do the 100K celebration at the end of the show, and we are going to do call-in tonight after the show. All right. Let's move on to the diddler. So if you have not heard about this, Sean Diddy Combs actually released an apology video where it kind of looks like he's being held hostage. I should have tried to find the one. They were already making memes about this, right? Kind of looks like he's being held hostage, apologizing after a viral video that was from 2016 from an LA hotel. Showed that he was physically assaulting Cassie, which actually corroborates Cassie's story when she discussed in the lawsuit that there was the incident that happened at the hotel. That's just one of the things that Cassie did mention. So he issued an apology video, and I want to show you something about this video. It's a bit wild, man. It's a bit wild. Watch this. First of all, before we get into the conversation, Puffy looks rough, right? So like Puffy don't look like he in the best of feels right now. But listen to this.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. Disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
But according to the allegations, when they were reported, Diddy said that all those allegations against him were false, right? So it really makes him look some kind of way, because for the people who were saying on social media, oh, I don't even know if that's Diddy in that video. That could be someone else. Well, it was him. Okay. It was him. People killed me with that. I don't really know if that's actually him. Of course that was him. Don't be so quick to come to this man's defense because you were a fan. You cannot idolize people.
I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
So a couple people are actually making fun of this video already on social media. But what was interesting to me about that video, it seems like he made it all about himself. Not once did he even mention Cassie's name. I don't know if that's just because of a legal reason, but not once did he mention her name. And it seemed like it was just all about him. Right. So I don't know. I don't feel sorry for him. That type of apology was ridiculous. And someone else doesn't feel sorry for him either. Now, this is a young woman who she alleges, and I've seen her before. She alleges that Diddy shot her, allegedly. Right. So she saw that video and she had some things to say about the apology video. Let's go ahead and bring this up here.
Tanya.
So it has zero value to me. First and foremost, it is the classic scripted publicist apology. I take accountability. I was disgusted. I went to rehab. I mean, how many times have we heard this narrative through the annals of time whenever a celebrity gets caught doing something or someone notable gets caught? It's the same narrative. Secondly, it carries no weight to me because he never apologized to Cassie directly. It was all about him. I'm disgusted. I, hit a hard time. It was all about him.
You knew Diddy before you were shot. You had actually met him at least one time before. You knew how powerful he was. Did people call you out for stepping forward?
I got called out the entire time. There was a narrative that we should never speak ill of somebody in the culture or another Black man. And I was raised on cultural pride and racial pride. I believe in that wholeheartedly. But what I was also raised was to speak truth to power. That was the first lesson. And it didn't make a difference who it was. I always spoke up, and I'm not going to stop now. I got called out one time that I can remember that really, really has stayed with me, and it saddens me tremendously. This was when my face was still bandaged up and my mom wanted me to get out of the house. I had been kind of like a hermit right after I got shot. And so there was a front cover story of me on the Daily News. And so those bandages looked very distinct. People knew who I was when I went outside.
Does everyone remember this woman? I'm not sure if everyone does. I remember the story. Does everyone remember this woman? She alleged that Diddy shot her. Because I remember the story, and people were just like, oh, there's no way he would have done something like that. Really? How do you know? You don't know him. You don't know these people. We don't know these people. We don't know celebrities. Can we stop pretending like we do? We don't know them. Just because you like someone or you like their music, that doesn't mean that might not want to shoot someone one day. You really don't know.
There were a group of my mom went to take care of some business, and there were a group of 7 people. I would say ranging from maybe 18 to 27. They cursed me out from across the street and called me everything but a child of God. You're trying to take down hip hop. You're trying to take down a good Black man. You're trying to destroy the culture. How? I was a victim. I got shot in my face. How am I trying to take down hip hop? I'm a student of hip hop. I bought the first rap record in 1979 in August with my allowance. I knew every word. Why am I the person trying to, and not the people recklessly wielding guns and committing violent acts against people? It didn't make sense.
I've heard him even say that people in the past, that people just want to take down a Black billionaire.
And while their history has shown us a whole narrative of that being the case, that is not the case in every situation, and it's certainly not the case now.
Right. And I don't want to spend too much time on that video, but I was just going to say, again, it's what's killing me is other men out here defending someone they never met, they never knew, just simply because he's a man like them. Man, forget that, okay? And what kills me is some of the guys saying this stuff have daughters, wives. Because let's keep it real. If it was your daughter on that videotape and it was Diddy beating your daughter, are you going to sit up there and take Diddy's side? That drove me crazy. Drove me crazy. Now, rapper Cameron went on to CNN, and I think this was kind of funny because I think Abby Phillips, I think she was expecting to pull more information out of Cameron. So this is kind of the funny response to the Diddy situation, because Cameron really was not feeling this the way that Abby thought that he would. So she didn't get too much out of him. And I don't know what she was expecting, but she didn't get a lot out of him. So this is the response video that everybody's kind of laughing about. Shout out to Philip Lewis says, so Cameron went on CNN tonight and it was an absolute disaster. Listen to this. This is in response to the Diddy apology.
Thanks for being here. First, when you saw that video of Diddy, Cassie in that hotel, did you recognize that Sean Combs?
What I want to say, first of all, when I seen the video, everything in the video was egregious. I'm against. I don't support all the charges that's alleged against him. I don't support any of that trafficking, minors, domestic violence. I'm totally against it. So when I seen the video, yeah, I was kind of upset with it. Being that I know him, he's not necessarily a friend, but yeah, I was upset when I seen it. But
did you recognize
everything
him?
I just said?
Did you?
So what was smart of Cameron to do here is he immediately came out and let everybody know, I am not about that life. I don't agree or approve of what I saw in that video, right? Now listen to this.
You recognize that kind of anger at all from your experiences?
I don't know like that. What do you mean, do I be recognized? Did I recognize him? I seen him. What do you mean my experiences? I seen him and I thought it was disgusting. I didn't do a zoom in to see if it was really him or nothing, but he admitted it was him. So yeah, it was him.
What did you think?
So he's letting her know that he didn't really know him in that way. So I think from this interview, I think that Abby was expecting to get more information out of Cameron, but that apparently didn't happen in the way that she thought it would.
Think about the apology that he gave in that other video.
Ain't me for this. The apology ain't for me to decide, for Cassie. What I think about it don't matter. He ain't do nothing to me. Cassie need to ask Cassie if she accept the apology. I told you how I feel. I said what I said.
I want to play a conversation that you had on your podcast back in September with Mace. Listen.
Yeah.
When you had your record deal, why did you take me to Biggie Smalls and not Bad Boy?
Man, it's almost gonna bring me to tears to say this. I just, being that I saw you as such a good friend, I wanted to put you with somebody I knew with.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. A lot of people ask me that on Instagram, man. Don't have me just on here crying and shit, man. I don't want to get emotional in here, man.
Instantly, I knew Biggie would do right by you.
Can you tell us?
So again, that was in reference to the music business. So I'm not sure why they inserted that there and that's in this interview. I don't think that necessarily had anything to do with the crimes that people are alleging that Diddy committed. I don't think that has anything to do with that. I think that conversation just happened to deal with the music business in general. Like, yeah, you'd probably be better off with this person than that person. So, I mean, I feel like they were reaching there like, oh, we got this conversation from Mace, this discussion that you had with Mace on your podcast with him. And they're trying to use that as some type of way to say, oh, well, he probably said that because you didn't want him to be with Biggie, or he didn't want you to be with, I said Biggie. He didn't want you to be with Tupac because Tupac, damn. He didn't want you to be with Diddy because he knew that Diddy was this bad person or this abusive person or something like that. I think that was more of like a music decision. So this didn't work in our favor.
A little bit more about that. I mean, is there something known in the industry about how Diddy treated his artists?
So I'm going to get some cheeks after this horsepower joint.
So I don't know if you guys heard what he said there, but he said, I'm going to get, I don't even know what that was. Somebody, guys, tell me, I'm not hip with the new you guys know I'm really bad with like, you know, a new slang and stuff like that. What is this juice thing he's talking about? Let me know. Is this some type of energy drink or something?
So I'm going to get some cheeks after this horsepower drink.
So he said, he said, I'm going to get some cheeks after this horsepower drink. It's a what? You guys know about this? Africa said it's a sex drink. There's a sex drink? What the hell is happening? What is Be Easy said, did he drink a Hims? What? Apparently some of you guys know what this is about. Pink horsepower? What the hell is this? There are drinks. People are just drinking stuff. Okay, let's finish this here.
I'm just going off what Mace said. Mace took me to Biggie. I don't really know Puffers like Mace know Puff. So I appreciate what Mace said. And of course, that's my brother. So if he felt that way, then he felt that way. I can't really tell you how Puff moves or anything like that. Mace may know better than me because he was signed to Puff. I wasn't. But my show does come on at 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. It's called It Is What It Is. And y'all make sure y'all check it out. I mean, I might get some more information out of Mace from there. But for me to tell you how Puff act and all that, I don't know. I never was signed to him.
Yeah.
So he used this opportunity to promote his YouTube show. This was interesting. I also think someone said Kit talked about this earlier this morning too. I'm gonna have to check that out.
What about the industry in general? I mean, so many people have pointed out that Diddy couldn't get away with this stuff if there weren't a lot of people protecting him. Do you think that's the case?
Who the talent agent for this joint? Like, you think I'll be sitting around watching what Diddy do and all this? I didn't know this was a Diddy joint that y'all invited me to. Yo, who booked me for this joint?
All right.
Wow, and I don't be sitting
Cameron,
around watching Diddy and all that. Yeah,
thanks.
Man, come on, man.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. You enjoy.
I know you guys. I know when I saw this, I was like, whoa, I guess they won't bring him back on CNN anymore. That is it for Cameron. They will not bring him back on. But apparently, again, he didn't have as much information as they thought that he would have or that he was willing to share. Now, what's interesting, this statement from Diddy is still posted onto his X page. And it's called Enough is Enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for truth. Sean Diddy Combs. So I'm surprised he still has this pinned to his page. This was posted December 6, 2023. He has not deleted this. And because he has not deleted this and that videotape has gone viral, Community Notes actually put a post underneath his post, which says CNN has released the surveillance footage from the hotel where Sean Diddy Combs is throwing and kicking Cassie Ventura. So again, I don't know why he still has this posted here. It looks pretty bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure people have screenshots of it now anyway, but very telling. Very telling. This is why sometimes the Oracle said that's what Diddy needs to be addressing, that statement. Yeah, this is why sometimes lawyers will actually tell their clients not to make a statement. Not to say anything. Don't post on social media. Don't make a statement to the press. This is why, because I don't know. I have to ask someone who's a lawyer, because technically, can't that statement be used against him now that that video has been released? This is why a lot of times they'll tell you not to make a statement. You guys are gonna have to tell me about this cheek drink or whatever it was he was talking about. I'm sorry. As I get older, I don't know all this new fun fad stuff that the kids are out there doing. You know, I don't know. Let's go to some of the comments here. Spark Joy said this video is almost as bad as the Prince Andrew interview denying he had sex with that young girl. Yep. The Oracle says, so what he needs to be addressing are the lies and denial, not the video, which speaks for itself. Robbie says, old news, Diddy. Everyone knew and or heard about Diddy's crime since the 90s. Yeah. And Hot Topic says, Abby sounds like artificial intelligence. Yeah. She always speaks that way. She kind of has a monotone voice, you know. I don't want to buy a drink. I don't think so. They said Sabby wants to try the drink. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. All right, let's get the comment on Rumble, Eric. Thank you. You know what? Thank you so much for the Rumble rants, goo. Norway announced that they would arrest BB if he ever arrives in Norway. Yeah, someone was mentioning that earlier in a super chat as well. And thank you for this. The diddler may head to Germany as the government decriminalize. What? Are you serious? Wait a minute. The diddler may head to Germany as the government decriminalize child pornography possession thanks to the pedo lobby today. Child consent age is now 12. Last month, they allowed pro-ISIS protests, no police. What the hell is going on with Germany? That's insane. Thank you for this tip on Rockfin Roger. Sab, that's the woman shot in the face from Club New York shooting with J-Lo, Shine, and Puff Daddy. That was either Shine or the person they were beefing with who shot her. You see, Sab, if Puff wasn't doing his regular practice of screwing over his artists, them dudes wouldn't have stepped to him in the club about their money. All stem from him being what, Sabby? A capitalist, which requires exploitation to work. Yeah, it all goes back to that. Wow. Aye. All right, guys, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button. And we're moving on to a pretty positive story for the most part. We have to talk about what this means in the long term. But breaking news with Julian Assange. This is a pretty short story, but a very important one. Apparently, it was yesterday, Julian Assange has finally been granted the chance to appeal extradition. So it is official now that he's been granted that chance to appeal extradition. It was not official before, but now it is. So you can hear that when coming here from people. This is ABC Australia, and Stella was also present to discuss this with the press as well. Listen to this.
At the 11th hour, Britain's High Court delivers for Julian Assange. The 52-year-old too unwell to hear the good news himself.
The judges reached the right decision. We spent a long time hearing the United States putting lipstick on a pig, but the judges did not fly it.
For the past 5 years, he's fought his extradition to the US from behind bars in London's Belmarsh prison.
I just want to add here, too, for those who are not aware, Julian Assange physically is still not doing well. So I know people have asked about this before. He's still not in good condition physically.
Two of Britain's most senior judges were comfortable the WikiLeaks founder wouldn't face the death penalty, but weren't convinced he'd be guaranteed the same free speech protections as a US citizen.
It's good news because the court accepted the appeal, but it's a kind of bittersweet news because still we don't know when the appeal will take place.
He's wanted in America on 18 criminal charges for obtaining, receiving and publishing classified documents about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Outside court, loyal supporters showed their joy and relief at the court's decision. This is a legal victory for Julian Assange, but it doesn't guarantee his freedom nor stop his eventual extradition to the United States.
Yes, so that was the part I really wanted people to hear. I don't want people to assume that this means that Julian Assange will be free. That is not necessarily the case here. That is something that his family is still fighting for. But one thing I do want to add that I've thought about over the years, if Julian Assange would have published war crimes that were committed by, let's say, Iran and not the United States government, would Julian Assange be in prison? I want to remind you, Julian Assange has not been formally charged with the crime. He is basically sitting in Belmarsh, which is one of the more harsher prisons, to wither away. That's something I think we should think about.
He's not free. He's not free. He's still in the belly of the beast.
We just want him free now. He shouldn't be in there anyway. His poor family's suffering more. He just shouldn't be there. He should be released.
Assange's brother Gabriel Shipton flew from Australia for the hearing. He's now travelling to the United States to lobby Congress to drop the case.
The only way that this is going to come to a quick conclusion is through the Australian government's advocacy and them using their coercive leverage with the United States to get Julian home.
For now, Julian Assange remains behind bars until yet another court hearing is set. Catherine Diss, ABC News, London.
So again, yes, Julian Assange is still in Belmarsh. Now, the appeal decision is some good news. I don't know why. I'm sorry, guys. It's making me log in again. Is some good news, but I do want people to understand the long-term goal. Eric, the article it's asking for a sign-in. Can you handle this? There's something I want to show you guys from Chris Hedges about this article. Yeah, it was asking me to sign in. I didn't have to sign in earlier, but now I do. Okay, there it is. All right, so Chris Hedges actually explains this really well. I want you guys to understand what this is basically, what they're basically trying to do in the courts with Julian Assange. The slow motion execution of Julian Assange continues. The ruling by the High Court in London permitting Julian Assange to appeal his extradition order leaves him languishing in precarious health in a high security prison. That is the point. Now, this is by Chris Hedges. This was published today. So I want you to think about that for just a second, right? All of these delays that have happened over the years with Julian Assange's case, that's on purpose. The longer they delay this, the more time goes by. And obviously, I told you before, he was not in good health in Belmarsh. They also had him isolated at one point. And then when I spoke to his father and his brother, they said they had finally gotten to the point where he was allowed to mingle with other prisoners, but they kept him in isolation for quite some time. So they are trying to break him down. The decision by the High Court in London to grant Julian Assange the right to appeal the order to extradite him to the United States may prove to be a Pyrrhic victory. It does not mean Julian will elude extradition. This is the point, the part I think everyone really needs to understand. It does not mean the court has ruled, as it should, that he is a journalist whose only crime was providing evidence of war crimes and lies by the U.S. government to the public. It does not mean he will not be released from the high security Belmarsh prison, where it goes on to say the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, after visiting Julian there, said he was undergoing a slow motion execution. So this is the unfortunate part. It does not mean that journalism is any less imperiled. Editors and publishers of 5 international media outlets, the New York Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, El País, and Der Spiegel, which published stories based on documents released by WikiLeaks, have urged the U.S. charges to be dropped and Julian be released. None of those media executives were charged with espionage. It does not dismiss the ludicrous ploy by the U.S. government to extradite an Australian citizen whose publication is not based in the U.S. and charge him with the Espionage Act. It continues the long Dickensian farce that mocks the most basic concepts of due process. The ruling is based on the grounds that the U.S. government did not offer sufficient assurances that Julian would be granted the same First Amendment protections afforded to a U.S. citizen should he stand trial. So that's the important part, right? Because he's not a citizen, they can't guarantee this for him. The appeal process is one more legal hurdle in the persecution of a journalist who should not only be free, but feted and honored as the most courageous of our generation. Yes, he can file an appeal, but this means another year, perhaps longer, in the harsh prison conditions as his physical and psychological health deteriorates. And this has been the plan, folks. They don't want Julian Assange to have a trial in the United States. That would not go well for not just Julian, but that would not go well for the United States government. They don't want that trial here. So what they are trying to do is they are trying to let Julian Assange basically suffer in Belmarsh from the conditions there. And they're trying to just wait this out until Julian Assange will wither away. I'm trying to say this in the most polite way possible, but I'm just keeping it real with you guys. This is what they're trying to do. This way they don't have to deal with the trial or anything at all. He spent 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy because the UK and Swedish governments refused to guarantee that he wouldn't be extradited to the United States, even though he agreed to return to Sweden and to aid a preliminary investigation that was eventually dropped. The judicial lynching of Julian was never about justice. The plethora of legal irregularities, including the recording of his meetings with attorneys by the Spanish security firm UC Global at the embassy on behalf of the CIA, alone should have seen the case thrown out of court, as it eviscerates attorney-client privilege. The U.S., here we go, has charged Julian with 17 acts under the Espionage Act and 1 count of computer misuse for an alleged conspiracy to take possession of and then publish national defense information. If found guilty on all these charges, he faces 175 years in a U.S. prison, which is not what they want to happen. Again, they do not want that trial to take place here. But I think what's important for people to grasp from this is, again, Julian Assange has not been convicted. Julian Assange has not been found guilty. He is sitting in a pretty much maximum security prison under cruel, harsh conditions, while government officials just twiddle their thumbs and hopes that he just succumbs to some type of illness while he's in that prison due to the harsh conditions and dies. This is the grand scheme of things. Others were able to get a break, right? Edward Snowden, he left the country, can't come back here, but he left the country and he left with his life and still has his life. Chelsea Manning has her life. Yes, she went to prison, but Chelsea Manning is still out there today. But Julian Assange, I feel like the government has tried to make an example out of him in particular. He's not the only political prisoner. There's Mumia. I think Daniel Hale has been released now. There's Leonard Peltier for speaking the truth. It's a very dangerous time for people that are truth tellers. Very dangerous time. Now, I do applaud the fact that he did receive, this appeal. I do applaud that. But to Chris Hedges' point, that in itself, this could take a year. So our government is just hoping that Julian Assange dies and that he'll just disappear. That's what our government is hoping. That's what I want people to understand. And they hope that after Julian Assange passes away, people will pretend as if he was never an issue and this never happened. That's right, Terry. Free Leonard Peltier. Actually, he has a trial coming up as well. Actually, the Peltier kids DM'd me about that. I need to look into that as well. I think he's coming up for appeal. But this is what we're dealing with, folks. So shout out to Chris Hedges for putting that into perspective, because I know when I heard that news, I was really happy and excited, but I didn't know what it really meant in the longer, scheme of things. But then when Chris explained it in his article, I was like, yeah, that makes sense, that's what they're really trying to do. It's a hot mess. I sincerely hope that Julian Assange can hang in there. I just don't know how much more of this he can take. Thank you for the super chat, Jay. Don't feel bad, Sabby. I don't know what that stuff is either. I guess you're talking about that drink. Yeah, I don't know what that was. George says, Sab, Anderson Cooper was asking Cameron if a serial killer moved in his neighborhood, would he tell? Cameron said he wouldn't. He would just move and let the police handle it. To be honest, I think some others would do that too. To be honest with you. Thank you for the super sticker, Unemployed Scholar. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Jacquee. Thank you. Thank you, 72 Marshflower. I was locked away 4.5 years of childhood and worse. Assange can make it, but he'll need help after. Victims don't get back up. Survivors do. Wow. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Marshflower. Sorry about that. Let's get those comments on Rockfin, Eric. Thank you for the tip, Roger. Pink horsepower is his product he is pushing. Pink is his favorite color. If you remember the songs from 2 decades ago, it contains ginger, ginseng, and asdaracha, indica, and Indian aphrodisia. I DM you it since you were interested. Looking forward to you making me an uncle again by next March. Have fun. Jokes, man. Jokes. Oh, get out of here, Roger. What? No. I don't know what he was talking about there. That was funny. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, we're moving on to the next story. I should have never asked what the drink was. Okay, Morehouse. Joe Biden actually did fulfill his commencement speech at Morehouse, but it was not met without some sort of resistance. Now, I argue that the protest at Morehouse should have been more powerful. I would have done more than just turn my back to Joe Biden. But there was some resistance to Joe Biden at the protest. Let's go ahead and get into that. Now, one of the things that Max Blumenthal pointed out is the fact that Joe Biden was already lying in his speech right off the bat. Listen to this. He says, Morehouse commencement, Joe Biden falsely claimed he saw pictures of Palestinians tying a mother and a daughter in a rope. Yeah, here we go, folks. Right? So here we go. Once again, lying about something that he did not see.
What's happening in Gaza and Israel is heartbreaking. Hamas's vicious attack on Israel, killing innocent lives and holding people hostage. I was there 9 days after. Said pictures of tying a mother and a daughter in a rope, pouring kerosene on them, burning them, and watching as they died.
So, number one, that didn't happen. And number two, he was not there. Yes, David, boo this man, boo this man. He was not there. That did not happen. You see how Joe Biden can just continually tell lies? He just makes things up, just makes up stuff. And there was more, because another thing that apparently they were not honest with the students about is that the students were told that Joe Biden's commencement speech would have nothing to do with his campaign and would not be used by his campaign. Yet, here is Joe Biden's campaign using his commencement speech, which is what they told the students would not happen. So shout out to Margaret Kimberly for catching this. The president of Morehouse College claimed that Biden's commencement address would not be used by his campaign. And yet here we are. Here's Joe Biden's campaign using this, and you'll see this ad here. Let's go ahead and start it here. They did exactly just that, used his speech as part of the campaign.
You started college just as George Floyd was murdered, and there was a reckoning on race. It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
Now, let's remember, okay, Joe Biden was the one who co-wrote the crime bill, right? Notice how he's talking about democracy. So again, this was another way for Joe Biden to campaign for his reelection, which should not have been done at a commencement address. And again, his campaign should not have used any parts of his speech for the campaign, which is the promise that they made to the students. So Joe Biden, make this clear, Joe Biden once again used the black community for his campaign while doing nothing for the black community.
When I sit behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, in front of the fireplace across from my desk, I have two busts, one of Dr. King, one of Bobby Kennedy. I often find myself looking at those busts, making decisions. Ask myself, are we living up to what we say we are as a nation? To end racism and poverty? To deliver jobs and justice? To restore our leadership in the world?
So, yeah. So another lie told by Joe Biden, and his campaign. So they lied to those students. And then another thing I want to mention as well, there was a discussion about this on MSNBC, and I want you guys to hear this. April Ryan was one of the commentators on MSNBC having this discussion, talks about how the commencement is over. And she goes on to say that Joe Biden talked about his accomplishments in the midst of visible, peaceful protests. Let's get into this because I have a couple of things to say about her comments here, because she brings up MLK. And I want to mention something that I think some people are not saying, that Tavis Smiley and I actually discussed yesterday. Listen to this.
I want to bring in right now April Ryan. She's the White House correspondent and the Washington bureau chief for the Grio. She's also an MSNBC contributor. April, good to have you. So you just heard the speech. Molly and I have been talking about this notion of a commencement speech versus a campaign speech. I want to just get your initial reaction to what you heard in our conversation so far.
Well, I greatly differ with Molly. I respect her opinion, but I greatly differ. I interviewed the president of Morehouse prior to this address this week, and he said he did not believe that there would be any protests. He said he did not believe that the students there would risk zip ties and be taken out. But there were peaceful protests. From the beginning, when the president stood up, you saw the Congolese flag by faculty members, faculty and staff of the university. That signified that there needs to be a focus on Congo, the atrocities that are happening in Congo.
Yeah, that did happen. There were faculty members who held up the flag for the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
And if you look in the crowd, yes, the president ticked off all of his messages about his positives and what he's done for Black America. But there was clearly an understanding in that crowd of Black men, of family members of all walks of life who understood the oppression by groups of people. You had people who were wearing the Palestinian liberation scarf. Okay. And you had people who turned their backs. We clearly saw that. You saw one faculty member. I don't even know if it's a faculty or student member, but it was someone standing in the back with their fist up. So there was clear protest that the president saw. People with their backs turned, people with their heads down. There was clear protests, peaceful protests in this moment on this sacred grass, on this sacred ground called a Centennial Campus. And the president told me the reason why it's so sacred, and he did not expect that to happen, I'm talking about the president of Morehouse, because of the sanctity and the sacred nature of that campus. The only time the students walk on that campus is for graduations and when there was a eulogy for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So let's talk about MLK, since people like to bring him up so much in reference to these protests. We talked about this yesterday on Tavis Smiley's radio show, and he brought up what MLK said about LBJ, right? So you've heard references from people saying that, well, basically Gaza is Biden's Vietnam. What did MLK say? MLK said, no, we will not vote for LBJ because of his support for the war in Vietnam, because of the atrocities that the U.S. government had committed to civilians in Vietnam. Remember, this is the last time that people actually saw warfare on national television. And because there was so much outrage about it, they decided, let's not show war coverage on national television again. So MLK was against supporting LBJ for re-election. He did not want to, and was vocal about it and said, we cannot support him because of what the U.S. government is doing to women and children in Vietnam. And he talked about how the money that was being used to commit the atrocities overseas, that is money that is not being used domestically in this country for people's needs here. But he was very adamant about that. You cannot support LBJ. A lot of people want to bring up Dr. King, but they want to leave certain things out, particularly when we're talking about Joe Biden. So what would Dr. King say to you today during this election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, if you're looking at Democrat and Republican Party? Dr. King, I would assume, would tell you you cannot support Joe Biden because of his legal funding and supporting of the atrocities against the Palestinian people in Gaza. Under no circumstances. So when I saw the way the students protested at Morehouse, turning their back, yeah, I get it. That's nice. That's cute. That's sweet. But that does not go far enough, especially when I show you other colleges where the students walked out during commencement. When you protest, you don't protest to make the other side comfortable. And I feel like the way these protests were done, it was done in such a way that it made Joe Biden okay with it. Joe Biden was fine with it and said, I appreciate the way that they chose to protest. That means the protest was not as effective. You are supposed to disrupt. That's the whole point of a protest, is to disrupt. Turning your back, get up and walk out. Walk away from this man. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but you see the picture here. Now here's one here. Hold on. Let me make the picture bigger so you can see it, okay? All right. Morehouse. So you see here's a graduate here, right? So they got the fist up, the Black Power fist up, and they have their back to Joe Biden. Okay, that's nice. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden is still speaking to an audience of people. The way that you prevent him and you stop the speech is you get up and you walk out. You don't stay there. You don't stay there and say, what are you doing? What are we doing? MLK wouldn't tell you to stay there. MLK would have told you to walk out. And we didn't even go into what Malcolm X would have told you to do. So we have to remember these things, folks. We have to remember what revolutionary leaders said in this country before. What would they have told you to do? Why would you even go there and entertain this man? Why? So you can get your diploma? They mail it to you. When I walked across the stage, that wasn't my diploma. That was just a sheet of paper that says, congratulations. My actual diploma was mailed to me. What are we going to do as a people? Why are we going to sit here and continue to entertain this man? You cannot. Now, there were two people. I do want to bring this up. And I did post this one. But I still feel like they should have got up and walked out. I said, I see someone at Morehouse had the guts to speak up about the U.S. government and Gaza. Listen to this.
Head down. And I know some of y'all don't agree like me. It's all right when you preach your sermon, preach it the way you want to preach it. But today I'm going to preach mine the way God told me to preach it. Yeah. When the United States continues to send billions of dollars to fund weapons to Israel, it'll make you hold your head down. When almost 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, while 1,200 people have been killed in Israel, it'll make you hold your head down. When institutions who taught us to be socially conscious turn and ask for us to become conveniently silent, it'll make you hold your head down.
But that's exactly what you did. The part there that he mentioned at the end when institutions, right, they tell you to be silent, but that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. You know what those students could have done? Those students could have went into commencement the moment Joe Biden got up there to speak, all stand up, walk out, and go hold their own celebration among each other out on the yard. That's what those students could have done. What is the president going to do? They're going to arrest them because they walked out of commencement? Get out of here. It's a free country. I ain't got to stay in this room. You don't have to stay in that room. Don't let these people fool you. Don't let them instill fear into you. The president of Morehouse works for the board of trustees, and that is who he's responding to, and that is who he's doing the work for. You do not owe Joe Biden your attention. You do not owe Joe Biden your presence. And I'm pretty sure if MLK was here, and I'm pretty sure if Malcolm X was here, and I damn well know if Fred Hampton was here, they would not put up with that. Period. Now, there was one more student. He said something else about Gaza as well. What's funny about this one is you can actually see Joe Biden's face over in the corner at the bottom. You see Joe Biden over here in the you see Joe Biden's face over here in the corner? Okay, watch this.
It is my stance as a Morehouse man, nay, as a human being, to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
Now notice, why is Joe Biden clapping? You guys see this again? Look over to the bottom right corner. Why is Joe Biden clapping at that when he's the one that has the power to call for a ceasefire? It doesn't make any damn sense.
Hear the people of this world. Sing the song of righteous justice. Thank you. It is.
And what's sad, and I want people to understand, this is where Democrat politicians and the DNC, this is where they go to basically recruit the next crop of politicians. The Black Boule. They go to Morehouse. They go to Spelman. They go to Howard. This is where they turn to recruit the next group of Black people to come into Congress and do their bidding. You ain't got to ask me. I know. They look toward them. Where do you think? I bet you AIPAC is up in there somewhere too. Because according to Cory Booker's comment towards AIPAC in that meeting, he told them you got to get them when they're young in the colleges. So they're all up in these schools trying to get these kids and get them to sell out. And this was your moment. This was your moment and this was your opportunity and you ruined it. And I'm pissed. And people can take it any kind of way. Yes, it's nice they did these things, but this was not loud enough. This was a ripple for mainstream media to say, well, those kids at Morehouse didn't behave that way. They actually received Biden very well for the most part. Biden even said that he appreciated the way that they chose to protest. That means it wasn't effective. That is not a good thing. That is not something you should pat yourself on the back for. And for the Uncle Tom president to sit up there and threaten you and to tell you that you will be arrested if you protest, screw him too. Who's cashing his checks? This is Morehouse? What happened to the HBCUs? What is going on here? Look at who's really in control. Now I want to show you. Margaret Kimberly wanted you guys to see this because the mainstream media doesn't want to show you what happened outside. Dear everyone, don't be confused by corporate media. Black people are not down with genocide. So you see this outside of Morehouse College. Let me go ahead and pull this up here so you can see it. See, Stop Arming Israel. So the graduates should have been out there with them. These are obviously people that were not a part of commencement, right? That's why they're out there. And there was, of course, the car that was honking as well. But I want to show you the comparison, okay? See, Chuck Modi has been on the ground for all of these protests. He's been out there just doing the damn thing. And he said, this AM, DC student graduation walkouts at both George Washington University and Georgetown University for schools to divest from genocide and free Palestine. Below is the Georgetown walkout. So watch this.
Candidates for the Master of Arts in Arab Studies.
Up with liberation! Down, down with occupation! Down, down with occupation! Up with liberation! Up with liberation! Down, down with occupation! Down, down with occupation! Disclose! Divest! We will not stop! We will not rest! Disclose! Divest!
So you see, these are the students in their graduation gowns, right? In their commencement gowns. This is what Morehouse should have done. You know, instead of the turn in the back to Joe Biden, get up and walk out. Get up and walk out. And then I want to show you what Yale students did as well. Yale students walk out of graduation waving Palestinian flags and chanting, disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Oh, and for the people who are telling me, oh, there's no black kids out there doing that. Really? That is what we should have seen from Morehouse, right? We don't want people just to be caving to what Joe Biden wants. That is not what should have been happening, regardless of who the president is. I don't know what has happened to these HBCUs. I feel like a lot of them they're just going along with what the establishment wants. And that is not why these universities were created in the first place. That is not why HBCUs were created. Not good. Someone said they were disappointed. Chris, I'm disappointed in Morehouse and expected to see so much more from the students. Same here, man. Same here. Let me see that comment on Rumble, Eric. Thank you. I'm frizzy today. Thank you for the comment on Rumble Goo. Didn't more African Americans get killed by policy under Obama's watch with Emperor Palpatine Biden? I have to check those numbers, so I can't confirm, but BLM, and particularly with Ferguson, that started under Barack Obama, and he sent in the National Guard. I remember that. Thank you for this as well. Mr. Magoo is more aware of what's going on around him than Emperor Palpatine Biden. Mr. Magoo. Oh no. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Why didn't someone yell out, "Yo, Biden"? It was us who delivered you the Senate, who gave you Warnock and Ossoff here in Georgia. Where's our $2,000 checks you promised? Yeah, that's another thing. I'm just like, why? Fuck this, man. I think a lot of these presidents have been some of these university presidents have been brought off. Because that's ridiculous. Ain't no way I would have sat there. I would have been gone, and I would have told my parents, "Mom, Dad, I graduated, but I'm walking out of commencement." That's what I would have done. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go to some of these comments, and then we're going to do our little celebration here, and then we'll go to call in. Benny said, "No one who voted against Joe Biden was black. He said so himself." I know, Benny. I hear ya. Be Easy said he has done nothing for Black America. That's right. Thank you for this, Chris. Biden has, 2 honorary doctorates from HBCUs, Howard and now Morehouse. That's like a Nazi getting a degree from Baruch or Brandeis. Oh, Baruch or Brandeis College. Insulting. Yeah, I told you, I don't know what happened to these HBCUs, but this is ridiculous. Also, I, for one, don't agree with honorary degrees. I never have. I never will. I'm sorry. You want a degree, you go to the college, you take the courses, and you earn it. I'm not, what do you mean honorary degree? Just because you are who you are? I never agreed with that. And Be Easy said those Morehouse protests were weak. Yes, they were. I agree. All right, guys, we are going to do the little celebration, and then we are going to head on over to Zoom for our call-in after show. So I did reach 100,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'm very appreciative. I did not expect that to happen at all. And I definitely didn't expect it to happen over the weekend, of course, when I didn't have any live shows or anything like that. So I want to take you to a little bit of a journey of Sabby Sabs podcast, how this all started and to where we are now. So I do want to tell you very beginning, this show, I used to do more like video essays in the beginning. So I did things about, I talked about like grad school, and there were issues during the pandemic that I talked about as well, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually things kind of went into the direction that I wanted them to go into. So, all right, guys, Sabby Sabs podcast through the years. Here we go. Is college really worth it? No, it's not. I'll answer that question now. That was 3 years ago. I'll answer that question now. No. Dude, people are leaving the city in droves.
So I have Maine Beer Company, and the name of this beer is called Lunch, and it's an IPA. This is actually one of my favorite IPAs that they make. They also have another one that goes with this called Dinner. Hi, Brittany, and welcome.
Hey cousin. That's what I usually call my subscribers. I call them cousins.
Rest in peace to Brittany. Brittany passed away last year.
You know, the YouTubers, they always have a name for their people.
Do you feel that maybe the progressive movement has lost the Black community? What's your opinion on that?
I don't think really that the progressive movement has lost the Black community. I think what's happening is that the progressive movement is changing.
So that was my last time working for Amazon, right then and there. I told them, you know, we should close this building down. They looked at me like, no, build business as usual. We don't want to cause any panic. So that's when I started to organize the workers. I left the building around 12 o'clock that day.
Can you explain to everybody, like, why do you feel that this is needed, that we need to defund the police and eventually get to the point where we don't really need police? There's Nick. There's my comrade Nick. That's my comrade Nick from RBN. This is back in the day, man. That's back when Nick used to wear the headset.
Very, very interesting to me that you have an entire liberal class that we actually dragged them over the last few decades to the left, where they acknowledge that the drug war was a failure. So they know the drug war is a failure, and they want to legalize marijuana and end the drug war, at least the voters, not the people in power. That's what I'm referring to. So they know the drug war is a scam. They know it's racist. Now, this is why I tell people, you can't be against ending the drug war while opposing defund the police.
How would you describe the political climate in Ohio post-Trump?
There might be a slight shift in major cities, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati. And it's not even more of a shift to like a more Democratic position. It's just that more Democrats got active in 2020 and actually went out and voted because they had like this fear of Trump. Ohio is definitely not turning blue. It has been on a redward slide for a long time. A lot of that has to do with NAFTA.
Simone Sanders is hurt that she didn't get the press secretary job with Biden. I have my opinion on that, how I feel about it. I understand where she's coming from, but I don't feel sorry for Simone, and I'm going to tell you why. Keyword there is equal, right? Because that's different from what he said a couple of days ago. Biden said that Israel has a right to defend itself a couple days ago. Biden said that he would stand by Israel a couple days ago.
Oh, what is that? For the people who said, I knew it. For the people who said some of us just started talking about Israel and Palestine after October 7th. I told you guys I was talking about this years ago. This video is 3 years old. So this is before I did live streams. I told you.
Now he's saying that he wants to ensure equal treatment for Israel and for Palestine. But if he wanted to ensure equal treatment, then why is the US government still supporting Israel? The Biden administration, this is just recently, they just approved $735 million weapon sale to Israel. They just approved that. That doesn't really go along with what he just said this morning. Trump could very much win again in 2024. Let's look at some numbers. For the 2016 election, Donald Trump had 62 million or over 62 million popular votes. Hillary Clinton had over 65 million. But Trump had over 62 million popular votes. Hold on to that number. Here are the 2020 popular vote election results. Joe Biden received over 81 million votes, but Donald Trump received over 74 million votes. He received more votes in the 2020 election than he did in the 2016 election. Let's think about all the things that had already happened under Trump. He had already made the comment about the S-hole countries. This was after COVID had started. This was after the economy tanked. And this was after the George Floyd protest. And he still was able to get more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016.
Uh-oh. Could that be a possible prediction?
What has been your experience as a Black leftist commentator in this space?
Very similar to experiences being a Black person in a white corporate world, right? Unfortunately, when I was coming of age, if you will, in this space, you would get help you would think people were trying to help you. Instead, they were trying to control you or use you. Other Black people, by the way. Because you get the crab in the bucket mentality, because there's only, at least perceptually back then, there's only so many spots for a Black guy in this space.
Can the economy tank again? The answer is an absolute 100% yes, absolutely. Look, this capitalist economy tanks every 4 to 7 years. It's been doing that for 300 years. So it's not a question of whether it'll tank. It's really only a question of when exactly.
Damn, it's been a hot minute. I need to get Professor Wolf back on here. This was years ago.
On average, capitalism tanks every 4 to 7 years. In every country where it's become the dominant system, that's what it does.
Right there where we have the corporate elite, that's where mostly everybody focuses. they don't look at these levels that are above that. And that's something that I keep telling everybody. They're like, well, what should we do? Well, you're being a pessimist or you're being nihilistic. It's no, I'm telling you, if we don't deal with these people above that, no change is going to happen. Because
see, this is what I was trying to tell you guys. Everybody focuses on, like what Marcus was saying. This is Marcus from the Political Matrix. He said everyone focuses on the corporate elite. Marcus is right. A lot of people stop right there and they don't go above that. They don't look at JP Morgan. They don't look at Goldman Sachs, right? They don't go above to the central bankers or the big bankers.
these are the people who say, okay, well, they want to have what? They want to have socialism. Okay, we'll do a couple of tweaks and turns and we'll call it socialism, but we'll keep it the same way. They want communism, and this is what's literally going on all the way around the world.
The United States government does not need to get involved. I've said this before multiple times. I do not agree with the United States government interfering in other countries' conflicts. Every time we do this, it goes tremendously bad. Every time. Now, it was just a couple months ago that some people were applauding Joe Biden for withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. Now, we can argue and have a little debate over that because I would still say there's still contractors in Afghanistan. But some people, nevertheless, were applauding Joe Biden for doing that. Here we are, just a couple of months later, and now he is threatening to send troops to Ukraine.
Well, I didn't work for RT America. I work for RT International when I submit my op-eds. So you have RT International, which is more the, in Europe and in Russia and whatnot. And then you have RT America, which is based out of Washington, D.C. So you had people like Lee Camp, Chris Hedges, people that had their shows there, and some of our great, hosts, television journalist hosts that were there in DC. So they all lost their job within one day. The same day that RT America shut down, I was told that my podcast was being shelved.
And in the little few articles that are out there, they act like, RT America just decided to shut down because they lost one of their distributors. But to me, that rings completely hollow. They could have kept running for many reasons. They had other platforms. They were big online. So there's plenty of people still seeing their content. They had plenty of funding, at least for several months, if not a year. And they, had plenty of staff. Even if they needed to cut back a little to only some of the shows, they could have done that, which they did not.
Let me show you who Madeleine Albright really was. She called them disgusting Serbs.
You have people who either inherit their seat, buy their seat, or again, because they know somebody, they can get that political seat.
It's been too long that we've seen people die because they can't pay their medical bills.
So we're kind of like a mixed bag here. We don't just do one thing. And I think that's kind of how it's developed. But our arc has completely shifted to, let's work with the Democratic Party and have this inside-outside strategy to we're done with electoral politics and like the only way forward is direct action.
They've spoken out about the cost of the Afghan war. Ilhan Omar has, Cori Bush has spoken out against the war state. She's connected the Black struggle in the U.S. to the Palestinian struggle. They make these statements, but what they fail to do is actually use their vote when the chips are down.
I think all of us have better cameras now. I think all of us have better cameras now because you look at my camera, you look at Max's camera. I think we've done better.
And the margins between the votes of the Democrats and Republicans are so close to actually twist the arm of Democratic leadership and extract concessions on the key issue of empire.
So I just started going ahead and guest hosting, which turned into more full-time hosting. And but I have to say, they have never, ever, ever censored me. They have.
That didn't turn out too well. That was actually when Kim Iverson started guest hosting on Rising. And that was when Ryan Grimm was on Rising at that point, when Crystal and Sagar had just left. And at that point, she was right. Like, they weren't censoring her at all. But it seemed like once management changed, the censorship changed in reference for Kim.
Never told me what I cannot say.
Or do you feel like
They're just trying to go along with the group.
And so the question I would ask is, were Justice Democrats ever ours? And the answer that I come to is no, they weren't. I never had anybody start a movement with me for $20 million. I mean, it just, the kind of money that flowed through their campaigns and continues to flow through their campaigns is not something that I ever had access to. And none of the other people who went afoul of that deep state entity.
China passed the US in net worth. And I kind of feel like that is part of the reason why Joe Biden is trying to escalate tensions with China. What's your opinion about that?
I didn't know that about the net worth thing. I mean, when people say that China is surpassing the U.S. economically, I mean, technically there might be some numbers to support that, and certainly they're growing very quickly and have made some big achievements. But still, the U.S. still controls the world. I think economically, U.S. corporations have a far bigger stake in
my bangs took over my whole head. Good Jesus, good God. All you see are my bangs took over my whole head.
in controlling the world economy than everybody else. I would bet even combined.
The attachment to neoliberalism amongst my generation is largely a product of the appreciation of the symbolism of the Obama Kamala Harris phenomenon. I know a lot of Black professionals who are from my age cohort who really start to get into neoliberalism as a product of the Clinton administration.
I've watched independent journalists and commentators struggle with censorship on various platforms. I've seen them have their work deleted, sometimes work that was published years ago. I've seen journalists demonetized and deplatformed. I've seen Wikipedia pages smearing anti-war voices. And speaking of war, if you discuss Russia and Ukraine differently than mainstream media, you will also be censored or deplatformed. That's right. The same goes for Israel and Palestine, Syria, and Yemen. Well, I happen to know one here locally pretty well who was a grassroots third-party candidate, and that was Dr. Jill Stein. And when she ran, we were guilt-tripped to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Rokana, I never brought Rokana back on the show. I never brought Rokana back on the show.
That if we didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, then Trump would win. But I still say to this day that Jill Stein was the better candidate.
Well, I supported Hillary Clinton in the general election, and I'm proud of supporting Hillary Clinton. I think that Trump was such a threat to democracy and is such a threat to democracy. Look, if Hillary Clinton had won, we would not have had Roe versus Wade overturned.
It's like the senators, like Marco Rubio and Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, completely disingenuously voting in favor of the paid sick leave for railroad workers while knowing that the bill is going down in flames in the Senate. Why did that happen? Because the Democratic Party and the left inside the Democratic Party has created that room for them.
George Floyd, is this going to be the one? No, this ain't going to be the one. There ain't one that's going to happen because of the way because of the way the discussion is posed, right? The system has even brainwashed Black people into looking at it wrong. The institution never wants to say there's an institutional or systemic problem. The institution wants to say, so somebody in this institution beats a Black person, right? Is there an institutional problem? Nope. That was an individual officer.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to do independent journalism, whether it's writing articles, but doing more so what you do, like investigative reporting?
You have to realize that the internet is a gigantic place, right? There's at any moment, everybody has, literally millions of choices about what to pay attention to, what to consume. So you need people to pay attention to you because there's no such thing as good journalism that nobody hears. It's not like art or poetry that you can discover 300 years later and, oh, it's beautiful. Journalism has to affect the society for it to be good, which means you need to find a way to get people to pay attention.
I will always remember this advice because I asked this question to a lot of different people, but I will always remember what Glenn said because Glenn had a really good point as to you can't be like everybody else. Like when I tell you guys, we don't need another this person, we don't need another that person. We don't need copycats. We need people that are going to be different. So I always remember what Glenn said is you have to bring something different to the table that other people are not doing. Otherwise, people will just see you as a copycat of somebody else. And honestly, that's not interesting. So I always remember this.
And I think the key way to get people to pay attention is to avoid becoming an expert in everything. Like, no one can be an expert in everything.
We tried to warn people about Joe Biden. Why do you think people still, particularly black people, why do you think black people still showed up to vote for Joe Biden?
We love the semester. Oh, we've been so good. He give us an extra ration to comb when we be doing some work. You know, we don't work too hard, but we sure love Massa. He ain't locked the gates on the plantation. We walk off whenever we want, but we sure love staying.
All right, guys, I'm here outside of the Lincoln Memorial for the Rage Against the War Machine rally. I have my first interview. Come on, Dan. Dan Cohen is here.
It's important for all of us just to denounce the war that the U.S. is waging against Russia that imperils the entire world.
Hank Collette, in order to make $50,000 a year, he has to teach 7 courses a semester, not just at Rutgers, but at other community colleges, and summer courses without health insurance. So this disparity, it's a replication of the kind of gig economy or a corporate structure. Most of the presidents of these universities are overcompensated fundraisers. They're judged not by the quality of the education they impart to the students, but by the money that they raise.
I mean, that's the funny thing about both Brother Biden and Sister Harris. You know, they remember when they said America's not a racist nation. What do you think, Vice President Harris? You went to Howard University. You got a fine, superb education. Do you think America? No, it's not a race. And then here come the brother from South Carolina. What's it? The big pharmacy man. Clyburn, Hickam Clyburn. Well, we got some racist pockets, but it's not really a racist nation. You know, biggest liars conceivable.
I'm here at Workers Strike Back at the Boston launch. I'm here with Chuck from the RWU. Chuck, why did you decide to come out today?
Well, I've been involved with RWU for about 3 years now. Joined on just before the pandemic, which was really something. And that, of course, happening, I think, has been a huge engine to energize the whole union movement across the country, across crafts and labor.
So this was the Boston chapter of Workers Strike Back. That was the official launch of that.
I am here with John and Gabriel Shipton. They are the father and brother of Julian Assange. Thank you so much.
God damn. I looked really thick. Yes, listen, I've been weightlifting and training for like a while, but I'm telling you, I looked really plump. I didn't realize how plump I look until I saw this video. God damn.
Much for joining me.
With pleasure. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks. Do you think the U.S. government will start a war with China?
I mean, all signs say yes at some point. It's hard to know when. Foreign Policy magazine basically took all of the top, especially Obama era, but really a mixture of neocons, top NATO former secretaries, and had them all submit their take on what are the lessons of the Ukraine conflict. And a huge theme in it was, well, we're learning how to fight when the time comes around Taiwan.
And it's important for us to have all those voices out there, and there are many of them in this race, principled, people-powered voices. But unless you are actually challenging power, unless you're threatening power, in the words of Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will.
I'm here with Luke. Luke, why did you decide to come out today?
I'm a part of a few of the groups here, United Against Foreign Militarism and the Marxist students in Boston. Mainstream media is, Russia is evil, Russia is bad, Ukraine is the good guy. We need to support them. We need to keep sending them money, guns, everything.
I'm here actually around the corner from Copley Square at the Free Palestine March. So we have already started marching. Some of the speakers that you're going to hear from, there are two of the students that wrote that letter at Harvard University. They're actually going to be some of the speakers that you're going to hear from today as well as those who have lost loved ones in Palestine.
The last thing I want to do is watch another U.S. presidential election. It's frankly depressing. It's depressing me already. It didn't even start yet. So that we must end the dependence on electoral politics and go back to movement politics.
We're actually here on Malcolm X Boulevard, right outside of the Marcus Garvey Recovery Center, across the street from the O'Brien Math and Science School. So we're doing the clothing and food drive today. This is part of the tent clinic. See, we brought gloves, alcohol prep pads, Benadryl, can't sleep on the Benadryl, feminine hygiene products here, ointments, cotton balls for all that jazz. We come into the tent. There's a lot of stuff. We still have to unbox some things, but shampoo. Shout out to Sergio for sending all this, by the way. Beans, peanut butters. We have more in the box. Like, there's a lot. And then clothes start over here. As you can see, there's still clothes underneath. I'm here in Copley Square once again in Boston, Massachusetts for the All Out for Gaza rally in Palestine. So a lot of people here, as just like it was last time, but I feel like it might be more people here this time around. I think also this time the turnout is much larger because it is on the weekend. The last protest was on a weeknight, although there were still a couple thousand that came to that one, but this one is definitely much bigger. Why again are we giving more money to Ukraine when it's very clear to those of us that have been paying attention that this war with Ukraine is already over?
Well, the fact of the matter is, we never expected Ukraine to win this battle against Russia. Anybody who thought Ukraine could win this war should probably be drug tested. Although I understand that in many parts of the United States, it's legal to consume drugs. But you shouldn't make foreign policy decisions while under the influence of drugs. And but it's never been the objective of the United States for Ukraine to beat Russia.
Thank you guys so much. Really, thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's been a journey, and I think somebody is here. Someone came in to surprise me. JB!
Congratulations. Oh my, I told you I'm going to turn out. I told you I was going to turn out. But when you hit 100K, I'm literally like this. I'm just like, yeah, here we go. Look. I want to say this, and I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. I did not plan to say this, but I wanted to say it. 1, congratulations. 2, thank you for being such a wonderful, prolific, and prodigious teacher to all of us, because you have helped me to grow better, not as just an interviewer, as a commentator. You've helped me to grow as a person. You have been the sister that I've always wanted in this space. And so I just want to say a huge thank you to you. And I love you. And I think the world of you. And I could not be any more proud to be in community with you, my sister.
Oh, JB, that's so sweet. I love you too, JB. You're like my brother.
Yeah,
that means a lot. That means a lot to me. Oh, JB, thank you so much. I know you're a busy person. I know you had a lot going on. Man, that was a wild ride, man. That was a wild ride.
3 years. And so I didn't want to take too much time because I know you're busy and I know you have to get going. But look, you're doing the damn thing. I cannot wait to see you hit 1 million. You know, if I'm turning out now, we're going to turn out even more when you hit 1 million. So, and I can't wait for it to happen.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta play the music. I gotta at least do this. I don't know how to stop.
Yes.
All right, JB. Yeah.
All
man.
right. All right. Sabs, have a great night. And look, love you. And you are doing big things. And of course, again, I am so super proud of you.
Oh, thank you, JB.
All right. Mwah, 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 mwah. Good night. Keep up the fight.
Oh, that was base. All right, guys, we are going to do call-in. That's my comrade JB from RBN. We do the JB and Sabby show together on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, that was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. Thanks so much. I am going to take a very quick break. I'll be back and we'll head on over to call-in and celebrate. Yay!
All right. Yes, we had Mr. JB Font stopping in for a special appearance. And yeah, so congrats to Sabby, and thanks for all people giving thanks. And I'll really appreciate it, and good stuff. Let's see what we got. Yeah, we got more congrats and whatnot in the chat. So anyways, I'll say, yeah, I'm Eric T. Rad. I'm usually in the background. I come into the foreground to give Sabrina a little break before we're going to jump over to the Zoom call. Thanks for congratulations, and thanks for the super chat, Natalie Williams. And then, yeah, we'll be posting the link. I think Sabrina's setting up the Zoom room now, and then we'll be transitioning over to the Zoom Hangout where any of you can jump in. Basically on Zoom, you raise your hand and you get in like a speaker's queue. You can do cameras on or off. It's optional. You may get a special appearance by Kiva the cat, who's maybe the biggest star of Zoom. We'll see. We'll see where she is, what mood she's in. You never know with cats. But yeah, we can talk about all the topics we've talked about tonight. What we have? We have the ICC warrants. We had the Iran president dying. We got Morehouse. We got Diddy. We got Assange appeal. We got Sabby to 100K. So a lot to talk about. And so feel free to come on in once we get that link out there and tell us what you think. Thanks for the super chat. Aspen Fallen. I had no idea when I subbed to your then 2K subs channel how much you changed my life for the better. You blossomed into such a force. Sabs, love ya. Thanks for that, Aspen. Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the videos she showed was in the marches for Medicare for All. And that was, back in the early days. And that's when I was just cluing into to Sabby and her show. And when she was out there, I remember what I said to her, she did a speech there. And then part of this was of the event was also these local Democratic candidates and some of the office holders. It's a couple of them were giving speeches at the mic as well. And I remember after it, and in the video you see Corey and I were there. We were kind of off to the right and kind of listening to it. And then afterwards, I came up to Sabby, and what I said to her is so what do you think of all these Democrats coming in and saying how much they support Medicare for All? And she just kind of got this look I don't know. And that was, and I knew we were kind of the same mindset that they weren't going to do it. All right, let's see what we have from David Giltonen. It's why when October 7th happened, I knew exactly where I stood. I was already informed ages ago, thanks to channels like yours, Sabby. Yes, thanks for that, David. And we'll see if we hear from David in the Zoom call, and he's always got some good stuff to say. And Mouse SF said, Sabby sold out to Big Bangs a long time ago. Yes. And JB talked about the cameras. Yeah, saying his cameras definitely got better. And JB shouting out his viewers for helping with his equipment to get those things better. Let's see here. Thanks for the super chat, Brent Hudgens. I gotta go and wish we all were raising glasses together for this milestone. I'm a proud supporter of your work. Congratulations. Yeah, I think Sabrina can apply for a verified check mark from YouTube. That's one of the things you have to have is 100K. and maybe that'll help with the algorithm, and maybe even boosting it further. And thanks for the super chat, Cup of Joy. 100K, 100K, 100K. Congratulations to Sabby. 200K in half the time, right? Woohoo. I mean, that is a thing. Growth on a channel like this can become what they call exponential, which means that the growth not only keeps happening, but the rate of growth actually gets larger and larger. And you can see, it getting bigger and bigger. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that happens over the coming months, and you can compare things. There's a site called Social Blade that you can track these things on, and it's free to go in there, and they have graphs and things. I could tell actually a couple months ago from what was on Social Blade that the trending was that the channel was going to hit 100K by late May, and that's exactly what happened. But maybe even a little sooner. So this is where I'll say again, we were kind of filling the transition, and we'll be transitioning over to the Zoom hangout that we do. It used to be on Call-In. Call-In went away. Now it's on Zoom. Let's see. Do we have a link, Sabby?
Yeah, it's pinned to the chat.
There we go.
And let me put in that code.
See there. See if I can bring it up here. And we almost have a better way to do this. We're working on it.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually go ahead and open it up now.
Headphones for Zoom.
That's from Doug. You remember Doug? Remember that show, Eric? Doug?
I don't know. Corey, do you remember the show Doug? I kind of do. Corey does.
Okay. All right. So I have opened the Zoom room. Some people have already entered the room. So I'm just going to ask everyone, just mute your mic when you come in. And if you want to speak, you'll have to raise your hand. The way that you do that, if you look across the bottom, you'll see mute for the mic, start video, participants, chat, and then you'll see a little smiley face that says reactions. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll see the option to raise your hand. And that's how we go ahead and go towards people we know who wants to speak. But everyone just go ahead and mute your mic. All right, guys, for the rest of you on the live stream, I'm out of here, fam. Thank you guys so much. Again, that passcode 732716, but it looks like a lot of you are already in here anyway. And then it's doing that. Okay. And then just go ahead and mute yourself when you come in.
All right. And I got it out on Rumble and on Rockfin.
And I'll send it via my newsletter as well.
And if you want to kick the host over to me, I'll make sure people are muted.
Okay, let's find you in here. Raise your hand so you can go up to the top, and then, and I'll mute you or add it to you.
Where is it? Where is it? I got to get it to pop out here.
Fools.
It gave me this really small window for some reason. There it is. Reactions. Hand. Oh, raise hand. There we go.
Okay, make host. All right, Eric, you are officially the host. All right, guys, I'm getting out of here.
All right, good to go. See you.
Call in if you want to drop in and say hello. Thank you so much for 100K subscribers, guys. I really do appreciate it. We're doing good things. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.